Call this meeting to order, please. Take your places, please. Let's get this going. You folks ready? Casey, you folks ready? Okay, good. Sounds good. Thank you very much. If you take your places, please, we will wait for Mr. Hurley to return. Otherwise, everybody's here. Sue's right there in the green. There's Mr. Schwinn and Mr. Hurley. Oh yeah, social distancing. He's not. Good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. This is the May Governing Board meeting of Rec Centers of Sun City West. And today we have some very important things on our agenda, and we do have a quorum. All board members are present and accounted for. And we're happy that everyone is here, and we're social distancing, as you can see. And we'll maintain that throughout the day. I would remind board members to turn their telephones on mute or turn them off, one of the two, please. Without objections, we will approve the February 20th meeting, which is a long time ago. That's our last meeting that we met in person and spent time together. Any objections to that? Otherwise, we will accept them as written by Karen. Thank you, Karen. All right, Sue Fitzsimons, you have something to do?
Yes, I do.
Turn your mic on. Is your mic on?
Yes, it's on. I'd like to recognize Terry Reeves. She has been the Weavers West Guild president for the last year and a half. She has shown exceptional leadership this past year and a half, and during the surprise relocation of the Kuntz remodel. Her calm matter of fact style and her attention to detail have been invaluable during the process. The Weavers had the pleasure of designing a new set of rooms, but the inconvenience of having to close down the club for 6 months, requiring packing and storing of all looms and loom supplies in another location during the construction. Throughout this time, Terry kept in constant contact with the membership and garnered their support with well-written updates. As dates and plans changed, she worked with her board to redirect the club, all while keeping club members focused on weaving. She also communicated well with staff, becoming close buddies with Carl. Her superior organizational skills made the process of packing a breeze, even with the challenges from the COVID-19 shutdown, which occurred right when we were supposed to be moving the supplies. Unfortunately for our community, Terry and her husband will be moving to Oklahoma in June to care for family. She will be sorely missed. And here's Terry's response. If she were here, she would be standing with me and saying this to you. Thank you to the board for the recognition today. I appreciate the nomination from my fellow club member, Sue Fitzsimons. In February 2019, while serving as co-president of Weavers West, we learned of the Kuntz expansion plan and how we would be affected. It was a surprise to our club, as we felt fortunate to have one of the largest, best-equipped studio spaces in Arizona. After a little resistance to change, our members soon embraced the idea of construction and how we could improve on our already wonderful space. It was easy for me to step up and volunteer to lead the project when I knew there were over 100 members standing with me, ready and willing and able to do all the work. The members of Weavers West are a hardworking, creative group who are up to any challenge. When our new studio reopens in the fall, I highly encourage the board and citizens in the community to visit the Guild and see what these people can do with a little fiber, talent, and imagination. You will be impressed with what you find. Thank you again. Terry Reeves, former president of Weavers West Guild.
Very nice. Thank you. Do they take clumsy old white guys and do that to do weaving? Do they?
They do.
They do?
They do.
Think you can work with that, huh?
Yep.
I'm not sure it would be true, but. So for those of you watching, we do monthly reports from committees, and typically we'll have 6 or 7 reports at the end of each month of what the activities of the committees happened. As it happens this month, we've only had 2 committees meet, and we're going to go through each of those 2, and we'll start with Mr. Young, who is the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Yes, thank you. The April 2020 financials have been reviewed and accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee. They've been filed, and there's no board action required.
All right, thank you. And then the Golf Committee, Tim Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a golf report for April and May. We had a meeting in April. We did not have a meeting in May. And the report is thus. While the COVID-19 virus has dominated the news, our golf courses have proceeded with the spring transition as the Bermuda grass rebounds from its winter dormancy. While the closure of the golf courses have had many reactions, both pro and con, as of Monday, May 11th, 5 of our courses are back open. Pebblebrook and Desert Trails were scheduled for routine summer closures and did not reopen. But it is hardly business as usual around the courses and the golf shops. In preparation for the course closures, the staff collectively put together a plan of efficiency, enabling them to make the best use of the upcoming golf closures. To take a bit of advantage of the upcoming COVID-19 closures on April 14th, the Environmental Services staff moved up the annual golf transition maintenance schedule by 1 month. This allowed them to get the maintenance done on closed courses and to perform the needed maintenance and turf transition from winter rye to Bermuda grass without any interference from folks playing. This opportunity eliminated the needs for the courses to close again in May as was originally scheduled. The maintenance services provided beginning on April 14th were as follows: aerations of tees, greens, and fairways on all courses, post-weed treatment on non-overseeded areas, spring fertilizer applications over all seeded areas, and a light verticutting of fairways and green banks on all courses. Some of the thin areas were resodded in the roughs on Stardust and Pebblebrook, and dead trees were removed at Grandview. And there were also several new trees planted at Pebblebrook. Now, regarding those owner members who own discount golf cards, the Unlimited, Kachina, Coyote, or Twilight, the Rec Centers has a plan in place to account for the lost time due to closures. If their operating system reflects that these cards were being used during the time of the closure, they will extend their annual renewal date by 1 month. This is not a refund, this is just an extension of time. Dormant cards will be used as owners being out of town, state, or country, and no extension of time will be needed. In the post-COVID-19 reopening, again, it is hardly business as usual around the courses and the golf shops, as the rec centers have instituted several recommendations from the National Golf Foundation to protect golfers and staff. They include social distancing, maintaining 6 feet separation, not gathering groups before or after the round, single riders in golf carts, extending the tee time spacing from 7 and 8 minutes to a 10-minute interval, and only 2 golfers allowed in the golf shop at any one time, and plexiglass barriers have been placed between the starters and the golfers. In common touch areas, such as the tables and chairs, they have been removed. Flag sticks are no touch, using a short foam insert around the flag stick to eliminate the need to grab the flag stick, making it easier to retrieve the ball from the club. Bunker rakes have been removed, ball washers have been removed, and the restroom doors are chalked open when possible. Golf carts are being rented, and they are being sanitized after each user, and the washing to sanitizing of hands often is recommended for everyone. Food and beverage service has been restricted to prepared items only, and lessons have been restricted to private lessons with appropriate spacing. Our golf community has taken the health guidelines seriously and is thankful that courses have been reopened. Groups need to be self-policing of the irresponsible individuals who get lax or start to disregard the health protocols. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim Hurley? Anybody have any questions about that? Thank you very much, Tim. All right, Jim, we need to go back to you and make the motion to, or just tell us about the April meetings.
I guess I misread the wrong one.
Jumped ahead of me.
I'll just talk about the April meeting a little bit.
Okay.
And the financials were down some because of the closing of the golf courses, obviously. And also the APF fee has been down because house sales aren't as robust as they were. So it's been off some, but we also had some gains. The positive thing was that Vanguard, our investments back in February had taken a big hit in the neighborhood of 4 million plus, and they're back up now, and we're just down a little over 1 million. So it's very positive looking, and it's because we're diversified and the way it was set up. I think it's been a great opportunity. And besides that, people have to remember we've made an awful lot of cash money from dividends, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's kind of the report, and I won't redo the agenda. I've already done it.
Okay, we will accept the April financials as they've been filed, however, though. All right, let's move on. One of the items that is of interest to the board and to the community is the COVID update and how the rec centers are responding. And I've asked Bill to prepare a presentation today for us to listen to and see. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, I know at our last workshop we kind of talked a little bit about what our game plan was and how we're moving forward relative to the COVID-19 virus that we're dealing with. And I just want to give you a brief update as to where we stand here today. Again, our goal, we are not a government agency. So we are managing this thing as far as the association goes, looking out for our staff members, owner members and guests, and how we keep them away from high risk and exposure. I don't know why this isn't working, Katie. So the little graph that you have in front of you here does show that the orange bars in this graph reflect the death in all ages relative to Maricopa County. And since the 2 weeks that have gone by, since May 11th to the 25th of May, obviously you can see that the death rate has continued to rise a bit, as well as the death rates of folks over 65 years of age. The key point there, obviously, is the age groups, and that is a big focus of what we do here. The average age of Sun City West residents is 74 years of age. Of the 381 deaths within Maricopa County, 333 of those, or 53, someone help me with my glasses here, are of an age over 65. It's pretty predominant. It's pretty unique to this virus per se, and it kind of guides us in what we're trying to do to help everyone here stay as safe as we know how. So with that, I noticed that everyone coming in here today was wearing a preventative mask. Not required in a lot of our, when we reopen facilities and whatnot, but we highly recommend it. It really comes down to a safety measure as far as how people feel. And again, why are you wearing masks? It's really not so much for yourself, but it's to protect those around you. And we really recommend that if you are out in public in groups that you do wear one. And those are basically the foundation and the fundamentals that the CDC is bringing about. And again, hand washing, hygiene, and all that, very, very important, and to keep that sanitization thing going. So when it comes to our organization, we've kind of identified some risk areas, obviously, when it comes to restrooms, break rooms, the workplaces, and various clubs and sports that we offer. So a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, obviously golf has been open for a while. We did reopen the pickleball courts, tennis courts, bocce, lawn bowling, mini golf, and the walking track, focusing on outdoor recreation. From what the scientists are telling us, obviously open air has a greater opportunity to diffuse a lot of the droplets that are coming out when people speak, scream, yell, cheer, those types of things. And so open outdoor recreation seemed a bit safe at that time, and since the governor did lift the shutdown on that as of the 15th, we have opened. We've also recently opened, as of last Friday, the swimming pools and the gymnasiums at R.H. Johnson and Palm Ridge. Attendance is not, they're not pushing our door down rapidly, but there are people attending. So on a positive side, we are providing an opportunity for people to get out, exercise, and stay healthy. For the most part, we are seeing compliance. As far as the gymnasiums go, certainly, A little bit of non-compliance at the dog park, a little bit. We did want to have folks kind of deal with leashes while walking the dog, exercising with your dog if you're going to use a dog park and whatnot. That is not really being adhered to very well. We are monitoring that, but again, from an enforcement perspective, looking at what we have available to us, not really much we can do. If it gets to a point of being ugly out of hand, we can react, but we are kind of keeping that in mind. Pickleball, kind of same way. It's a very popular sport. I think people are somewhat happy that it is open. Tables and chairs have been removed for, we want to, like Tim talked about earlier, as far as the post-event gatherings, we want to keep that to a minimum, at least as the time exists right now. On Tuesday, the 26th, after the Memorial Day holiday, membership services has opened. So our office is open now 8 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. We are accepting walk-ins and we do take appointments. The box office is dealing with things via the phone, so we are limiting the gathering indoors. We have removed some chairs from our lobby. We're limiting counting staff in the lobby for both box office. We are limiting the number of people in the house to 10, as well as over on the membership side as well. We have set up some seating outside in the shade to comfort some folks, and we are doing some little public relations out there. If people are needing to wait until a spot opens inside, we are making them as comfortable as possible. And as of the last couple of days anyway, the reports that I'm getting from both box office and membership are things are going very, very smoothly. Tours and scheduling, they are open and operating via phone and online communications. That too is going very, very well. And I know some of you have been shared various emails that we have received, some of them not very pleasant, to the point of criminally threatening. And so Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has been notified on those. I do have, unfortunately, a small stack if you care to share some of those, but these are being monitored as well, which kind of forced us to add this last bullet on this particular form, as that up in membership currently, while being open from 8 to 2:30, we do have an armed security guard present. That also helps keep things running smoothly. Moving on to the library. A grab-and-go program will start on June 2nd, which is very, very good. We're going to limit visits to the library to about 30 minutes. Masks, again, are encouraged. So people want to come in, get their material, and go. That's good. Use the book drop, and our hours will resume beginning June 2nd from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. on a daily basis. On Monday the 8th, Riley is working diligently with a lot of the clubs that have dedicated facilities. We are still holding back on group classes, facilities that shared use with a club coming in at one portion of the day, leaving, another club coming in. That is still an issue for us due to the fact that we are still waiting on a little bit of sanitation equipment to come our way that's been ordered. But in order for us to keep these facilities as clean as we know we need to, we are holding back on the shared use facilities currently. And again, we've enacted the no guest policy as far as that goes. As far as the sports pavilion goes, they normally do close on Monday, so beginning on Tuesday the 9th, the bowling center will open. We will not be renting any equipment as far as bowling balls that you don't own, shoes and that type of thing. So if you have your own equipment, come in and play. Every other lane will be in use as far as the spacing scenario goes, and it will be open to the public. Moving on, beginning June 8th, golf, as Tim mentioned, has been opened. The rounds, comparatively, for the month of May this year to last year, were actually up about 1,200 rounds, which is a very positive thing for us. So a lot of people have stayed around, potentially not gone home, and with the golf courses being open, it's making up for a little lost time that we had when we did shut the facilities down in April. And that, I think, concludes our update, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to respond.
Yeah. I was just sent this information as well. Today, new cases today in Arizona, the COVID virus is 501 new cases today, 26 deaths in Arizona. And as of this morning, there are 62 cases attributed to Sun City West. So the virus is still around, is still with us. And so any questions of Bill? I have a few, but anybody else have a question? Tim, you have a question?
Just two clarifications. You say golf courses are going to be open to the public. Does that mean outside players will be allowed?
Yes, sir.
And what about food and beverage service at the courses?
As far as the packaged good goes, those will be open. And obviously, I'm not, Pat here, I'm not sure of Jeff's schedule when it comes to the restaurant at Grandview, but they are opening or should be open, and
They're open now.
very good. And the same thing I can say with Mimos.
Okay.
But yes, so essentially, anything that is packaged that we don't have to prepare ourselves will be distributing on the 8th.
At what point do you think the tables and chairs will be put back out?
That, again, is something that we're kind of looking at, playing with Maricopa County Environmental Services when it comes to like swimming pools and that type of thing. We're kind of leaning on them for advice when it comes to that, and obviously watching the numbers. So that's on our agenda. So when we get to like group activities and clubs and those types of things, part of our phased reopening, that's still on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Questions over here? Brian, Jim? I have a couple questions. We've been getting emails today, Bill, from clubs that are not craft clubs, not the normal clubs that we're seeing being open, which makes a lot of sense. Could you talk about the criteria? Somebody, whoever's intel, I think it's Riley handling that. Perhaps you could come help us with that, Riley. What I'm interested in is answering some of the questions that have been asked today and yesterday from typically dance clubs, those types of clubs that would be sharing facilities, that sort of thing. So can you tell us, and then also how many clubs are actually opening? Maybe start there, and how did they get decided on? Start with that one, please.
We initially we're starting as of June 8th
Yep.
with the clubs that have designated space, if you will. Due to the lack of cleaning supplies, it's easy for us to go in, sterilize the room, allow the club to utilize it throughout the day, and then sterilize it again at the end of the day. It will also be providing those clubs with products to clean up as their members come in and out of the club.
How many of those were the craft? Do you have a number in your head?
Yes, there is actually 20 clubs that will be opening.
20 clubs will be opening in June out of the 103, 104, whatever.
104.
Yeah. Okay. And how did those clubs get selected? Is that just anybody that has a craft club, or how did you decide that?
How we set that up was I reached out to all the clubs to give us their plan, because clubs are unique in their idiosyncrasies as to what they do, and in regards to shared products, if you will, shared tools, things of that nature. And they responded very well with giving us a plan, so for sterilization, things of that nature, and looking at the number of people that will be permitted within the club and how they'll handle that.
So if a club was, I saw a list of craft clubs, and I noticed that there were some notables that were not on that list. Is there a reason that they wouldn't have been on it? Because
In regards to what club, sir?
I didn't see Metal Club on the, for example.
Metal Club is on that list.
Is it? Okay, I
Yes.
missed it then. I didn't see it. Okay. All right, then you want to answer the other club, dance clubs, and those folks that are writing us now?
Right. Right now, I am getting a lot of kickback, if you will, from those clubs.
So are we.
And we are looking at when we can open those venues up. Obviously, this particular area, which is often used for a lot of the dance and line dancing and so forth, is being utilized for the production of the events for Summerfest and Fall Fest. And then when it comes to the social hall, that is also being used by staff and other individuals for meetings. And as soon as those are concluded, we'll be opening those clubs.
Okay.
And again, I'd like to just put a caveat on that as to when we have for example, line dancing, then you have, that's 50, 60 people in a confined space. And then after that occurs, you have another class coming in, be it Zumba or somebody like that, and we need to sterilize that area. And of course, we need the materials to do that.
So there's a back order on disinfectant supplies right now.
Correct,
And we
yes.
don't have any dates on delivery on that, correct? Is that what we're being
Not
told?
at this point, no, sir.
Yeah, that's too bad.
We're having a hard time even finding spray bottles at this point in time.
You want to add to that? Okay, nothing to add to.
I know our staff on a procurement side, I mean, they've lifted every stone we can find to try to find some of this stuff. And it's been ordered. And it's not like it was ordered yesterday. This was ordered back in March.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Riley before we move
I have a
on?
question. Riley, how do you go about sterilizing a room?
Well, basically, we take disinfectant, cover all the touch spots, if you will, door handles, sinks, things of that nature, cleaning the tables. When it comes to, be it hard floor surfaces, if there's an exercise process, Don and his crew over at the social hall, for example, one man sweeps, and another follows him with disinfectant and sterilizes the entire floor prior to the next class coming in.
Okay, thanks.
Certainly.
All right.
If I may, one question for Riley.
Sure.
What is the difference between one club using a room multiple times during the day and multiple clubs at various times using the same space? It seemed that you were okay with one club, multiple uses, like yoga has multiple clubs, multiple classes, but we're less comfortable with one club using it, then leaving, and another club coming in and using it.
Correct. And that, again, falls back onto the products that we have available for sterilizing a room. So in other words, operations over at Coons Rec Center, for example, there may be 3 clubs that utilize a room coming in literally within 15 minutes of one another. Having the product on hand to sterilize that room before the next club comes in has become an issue.
The other part of that, Jared, I kind of see where you're going, but the club itself is responsible for some of the sterilization, disinfectant as well. So there's a consistency of the club being in a building, in a room, and then new people coming in, yes, but there's an oversight of that. Whereas with different clubs coming in, it's a problem, it becomes problematic. So is that pretty much?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good question. Bill, do you happen to know in the back of your head what the APF actual number is for April? Jim mentioned it's down, and I had not heard that.
I don't want to give you a false number. I'm going to lean on Mr. Finelli
Pete
for
knows.
that one.
What is it?
98? 98 in April?
Well, that's not,
comparatively to last year, we were like 140? 155?
All right, and then my last question, for maybe somebody else may have another, is when the sports pavilion opens, would billiards be included in that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Bill on the COVID stuff? This is a moving target for us, and you can imagine the staff that has gone through trying to figure out the right thing to do, and with all the people pulling on different areas, and so this has been a tough process, and hopefully we're almost through it, and we'll be back to a normal of whatever that looks like.
Jim,
Yes.
I have a question. When you talked about the dog parks, whoever talked about it, I missed some of that. The last I knew, they were on leashes, which the dog park never has been. So is that an issue or a problem? First of all, are they open?
Yes, sir, they are open.
And are they abiding by the rules that they need to abide by?
I think initially when we were trying to impact the phased reopening, CDC was kind of advising us that canines can contribute to the distribution of this virus. Hence, they were recommending that dogs remain on leashes.
Okay.
And so that was the step we took forward. Like you said, they have not been used to doing that in dog parks, so there has not been an overabundance of compliance. And what I think we're seeing as far as the non-compliance with the leash scenario is the fact that currently, with the temperatures the way they are, the numbers, the usage that is at those dog parks is rather minimal. So as far as the kind of the danger or the clustering of crowds is not there, we're calling it good at this point.
Okay.
But we do have an eye on that.
Well, the reason I ask is because that's the reason people take their dogs to the dog park is so they can take them off the leash. They got to have them when they walk, and so anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Those are more of those personal decisions, aren't they, that we're having to make at this time. All right, let's move on. Unless no other questions, we'll move on. I've just been told by Katie that we have 48 viewers from our community viewing this meeting, which would be a nice room, a nice space in the lecture hall. if we were to be in there. All right, last September, we appointed chairs for committees, and the Charter Club Committee's chairperson was new director Donna Maloney. And at that time, we talked about what we would like to get accomplished, and one of the things we talked about was revising and updating the RRPs, which is the rules and regulations for clubs. So she and her committee went to work and produced a document that I think is a good document. We've been through reviews several times by this group, rewrites, some more rewrites, and then back to the board today to be approved. And so I will ask Donna to speak to that and then make the motion to approve this in gross.
Thank you, President Sloan. I move that the governing board approve the in-gross changes to the Charter Club RRMPs as redlined.
All right, without objections, we've been through this a couple times. Anybody objecting to this, or can we just move forward with it? We will. I don't think we need a, no, we don't need a second. We'll just accept it. Without exception, we will move forward and accept it as written by this club. Yes. We do need a roll call vote. Why do we need a roll call vote? We do? Well, okay. All right, Brian Wallace, how do you vote on this?
Vote yes.
Brian Wallace votes yes. Jim Young, how do you vote? Yes. Jim Young votes yes. Bob Canaro?
Yes.
Bob Canaro votes yes. Donna Maloney, I'm sure, is a no.
Yes.
It's a yes. George Kuchek?
Yes.
George Kuchek votes yes. Timmy Hurley?
Yes.
Tim Hurley votes yes. Sue Fitzsimons?
Yes.
Sue Fitzsimons votes yes. Jerry Connor? Yes. Jerry Connor, and it is unanimous, votes yes across the board. All right. Thank you. All right. Jim Young, back to you. We've got some FI policies that are,
Okay. I move that the governing board approve the in-gross changes to the financial policy FI2 as redlined.
all right. Let's see, the 3 revised policy will be published in board docs available. All right, so do we need to do all of these individually, do we? All right, let's do it. Brian Wallace, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Brian Wallace says yes. Jim
Yes.
Young? Jim Young says yes.
Yes.
Bob Canaro says yes. Donna Maloney
Yes.
says yes. George Kuchek says yes. Tim Hurley
Yes.
says yes. Sue Fitzsimons
Yes.
says yes. Jerry Connor says yes. All right. And next one, Jim?
I move that the governing board approve the in-gross changes to the financial policy FI4 reserve funding as redlined.
Just a reminder, we've been through these several times in various board workshops and so forth. So if we want to, somebody wants to talk about this, this is the reserves fund
Let me just
policy.
indicate what we're changing. It's very brief.
Okay.
We're actually changing F4121, which is going to say that the reserve is the repair and replacement requirement standard for reserve is set between 40 and 100. It used to be 70 and 100, and as Tim explained very clearly, it was because we found a lot of expenses, not because we lost money. So
Right. Okay, all right. Brian Wallace, how do you vote?
Yes.
Brian Wallace votes yes. Jim Young votes
yes.
yes. Bob Canaro?
Yes.
Bob Canaro votes yes. Donna Maloney?
Yes.
Donna Maloney votes yes. George Kuchek? Yes. Votes yes. Tim Hurley?
Yes.
Tim Hurley votes yes. Sue Fitzsimons
Yes.
votes yes. Jerry Connor? Yes. All right. It is a unanimous vote. And then finally, tell us about the next one and then make the motion, Jim.
I move that the governing board approve the in-gross changes to the financial policy FI12 investment as redlined.
This is the investment of associate funds.
I'm going to speak to it as soon as you.
I see, okay, all right. Discussion on
Yes.
this? Go ahead.
If you go to 3.0, we're actually removing FDIC insured bank instruments in 2 locations. And the reason we're doing this is FDIC can only be insured at 250,000. We'd have to have 20 banks in order to do it. And when you go to 4.4.2, it says, all investments shall be held in banks and brokerage firms that are members of FDIC and NSB. So really, it's just not needed. That's why we're removing it.
Okay. Any other conversation, discussion on this? Questions of Jim or questions of staff? All right. Let's go the other way. Jerry Connor, how do you vote? Yes. Sue Fitzsimons, how do you
Yes.
vote? Sue
Yes.
Fitzsimons votes yes. Tim Hurley?
Yes.
Tim Hurley votes yes. George Kuchek?
Yes.
Votes yes. Donna Maloney
Yes.
votes yes. Bob Canaro?
Yes.
Votes
Yes.
Votes, and don't get ahead of me, Mr. Young, please.
No?
Just, you can't do that. Brian Wallace?
Yes.
Votes yes. It is a unanimous vote. All right, thank you very much. Those have been hanging around for several months. The other thing that we've been working on for a couple years is the reorganization and moving forward with our association bylaws. And 2 years ago, Brian took on the task of rewriting. No, that's not the right word. I don't mean it rewriting, but updating and bringing it into the current timing of for numbers of reasons. And so, Brian Wallace, thank you for your work on this. And if you could tell us kind of a brief summary and then make the motion, or the other way around, either way, however you want to do it.
If you don't mind, I'd like to make the
Sure,
motion
make the
first.
motion,
All right,
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move that the governing board approve and gross the changes to the rec center bylaws as redlined.
I want to second it just because he's been spending the whole about 2 years on it, and I think somebody ought to recognize
Somebody,
it.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right. Any discussion on this? The motion is on the floor. We'll discuss it, and maybe, Brian, you can just, George, you want to say something before Brian?
First off, thank you, Brian, for this. Not only that, this is mostly to bring us in compliance with Arizona statutes, if a majority of this. Is that correct?
Actually, no, it's not. That was one very important component of it.
No.
The primary issue was to take significant sections of the bylaws that were considered operational and move those into policy documents. That was done at the end of last board year. 4 new policy documents were put into place, which left gaping holes in the text and the continuity of the existing bylaws. So not only did we want to address changes in Arizona law that we needed to be compliant with, but also that found that there were a couple of places where when we removed all of the text for the new policies, that it made kind of choppy wording and also left a significant hole in the numbering system. So those 2 things were addressed, and this was a culmination of bringing all of that together and having it be in a useful and readable form, as well as in those sections where the policy documents were removed, there was wording placed at the beginning of the section referring the reader to the new policies. So it's not like everything that needs to be considered on an issue is just in the bylaws document. Make sure you go read the policy as well. And
Thank you.
that's been iterated multiple times, not only with the members of the board, but with our attorney to help. They did the heavy lifting on doing the renumbering and the technical reformatting of the text. But it's in a good place, I believe, and it's been 13 years since the bylaws were last revised. And this was not a changing of the bylaws, it was a reorganization of the bylaws.
Thank you very much.
And we also need to say, Brian, you've been working with James Hazelwood, our association attorney, throughout this process, who has initiated several of the changes and helped along the way, reviewing and making sure that we're on the right path. The master copy of the bylaws is now residing at his office and on our board docs. So if changes were to happen, they're going to happen in a board meeting, and then will be addressed back to Mr. Hazelwood. Okay. Any other conversation? Whoops, thank you. All right, let's go, Mr. Connor. How do you vote, sir? Yes. Yes. Jerry Connor votes yes. Sue Fitzsimon?
Yes.
Sue Fitz, votes yes. Tim Hurley?
Yes.
Votes yes. George Kupchak?
Yes.
George votes less. Yes. Donald Maloney? I'm forgetting all these names here.
Yes.
I don't usually say them all. George, what's your name? Bob?
Yeah.
Bob.
Last time my wife called me.
Bob Canaro.
Yeah. Yes.
Jim Young?
Yes.
And Brian Wallace?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, it is a unanimous,
You're gonna vote
unanimous move forward. All right, so the next items on, the next items on the agenda have to do with budgets. And so there's, I've divided this up into three specific sections. We have to vote individually on each project over $100,000. We need to vote in gross on the $50,000 to $99,000. I have asked that staff prepare slides to talk about fee increases, both dues and golf and bowling, those kinds of fee increases. So we have a look at them, we can talk about them, endorse them, make suggestions, however we're going to do that. So as we go through, Bill's going to take the meeting now and go forward with the agenda with the budget presentation. We will stop at each 100,000 item that as we get to it, we will make the motion that goes with that piece, and we will vote individually, and it needs to be voice vote, roll call vote on each of these. So this is 16 items that we're going to go through now, and so it's going to take a little bit of time to get through this. So, but we'll work our way through this. All right, Mr. Schwinn.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Before I get started here, you all obviously know this, but there are a lot of people in this room that need to be thanked. Staff has really done an excellent job helping putting this entire budget package together this year, in addition to everything else that we've been dealing with, especially during this spring. But anyway, here we are. As per the bylaws kind of roll out, as far as the timeliness of this whole thing goes, I think we've met the deadline, and I think we're going to present to you today a pretty balanced budget considering everything that we've been up against, and that is financially sound and taking care of all the principles and guidelines that you as a governing board has presented to us to try to accomplish. So my hat's off to the folks in the room, and I can't thank you all enough. Moving forward, as far as the proposed capital budget goes, we've got this thing broken down, as you know, into some golf R&R and some new projects going on over there. As far as the rec centers, R&R, there's some new projects when it comes to recreation centers, and also some allowances, and we're looking at about a $5.9 million budget as far as the capital projects go. Just touching base briefly on the allowances, essentially we're talking about contingency money. If we can advance that slide, I know it's not really reacting, having fun. These things are things that pop up, obviously with 7 golf courses with various types of motors and pumps that obviously move water around, which are absolutely essential to keeping the golf courses up and going. We've got some contingency built in there so we can react when we need to if any of these things were to go south on us. We've got some energy conservation measures going on in there that we can kind of save some money, operate efficiencies, any kind of changing demographics, obviously, that take place as far as new items that present themselves to us. If the board and staff feel that this is an opportunity we can take advantage of, we have the opportunity to do so. So when it comes to the capital budget, there's about $435,000 budgeted for various allowances. So when it comes to the capital projects over $100,000, these things are listed individually for the governing board to assess as individual projects, needing approval to move this thing forward as far as ultimately approving the final budget for fiscal year 2021. A list of these items appear numerically from the highest one down. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Wilhelm to kind of present these things individually, and then any more detail needed by the governing board as far as specifics on these. There are the associated staff members here that can help answer any and all of your questions. I just do want to point out there are 3 projects on this list. The first one being golf maintenance, the other one being golf maintenance vehicles, and then there's another one related to HVAC that the numbers associated with them are not individual one-time pops. These are roll-up items. So in that there's about 21 items in the first particular golf course maintenance equipment scenario that basically are rolled up to get you to the $700,000 fee. So it's not just one item for $700,000. It's a series of. Same thing can be said with the golf vehicles. It's about 11 items there. And I think Russ has about 31 items when it comes to the HVAC scenario. I just wanted to say that initially, and I'm going to hand this thing over to Mr. Wilhelm at this point to walk you through each project. Thank you.
Mr. President, excuse me,
Sorry.
may I ask the general manager a question,
course.
please? Under the allowances section, Bill?
Yes, yes, sir.
Are these allowances specifically, I mean, they're listed as specific items, not, and this is a list not to be deviated from, is that correct?
No, sir. I mean, anything comes up that the governing board sees fit for, there's an opportunity there to deal with that. However, when it comes to a budgeting scenario, these are typically the fields that kind of come up and pop up as we have gone along historically. So they're identified as such.
And these are still items that if they're over $50,000.01 must come to the board for approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
As with all of these projects, right?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
I would like to see us make a motion on each one of these items before Carl even talks about it. First of all, we have seen this 25 times, and I don't see why we have to sit through a presentation that he's already made 25 times when many of us have made up our mind that it's there. If we make a motion and there's no discussion on that motion, we don't need to hear from Carl. That's just my point. It would speed things up and it would get the job done.
Spoken like a Marine, Jim.
That's true.
Any objection
salute
to
you.
this fine thought process that Jim has exhibited here? Any problems with that? You'd like to hear it? We can hear it if, the presentation if we want to hear it. We don't need to hear it again. We've all seen it several times.
Well, during discussion, we can ask for it,
Get
so.
I get it. All right. Okay, Jerry Connor's going to do the motions. Let's do it that way, and we'll come back to it if we have to.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for golf maintenance equipment not to exceed $734,382.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Any discussion?
I think you need a second.
Yeah, do you want seconds on
We'll
these
take-
or no?
We can take seconds. It's fine. Would you like to second that, Jim?
Yes, I'd love
Good
to,
idea. Thought you would.
before Tim does.
Yes. That's fine. Any discussion? Do you want to hear Carl's talk about this?
I
No?
don't.
All right. Let's go ahead and vote. We'll start with Mr. Connor.
Yes.
Jerry Connor votes yes.
Yes.
Sue Fitzsimons
Yes.
votes yes. Tim Hurley votes yes. George Kuchek votes.
Yes.
George votes yes. Ms. Maloney votes
Yes.
yes on Ms. Maloney. Bob Canaro
Yes.
votes yes.
Yes,
Jim Young votes yes, and Brian Wallace
Yes.
votes yes. It is a unanimous vote on that. All right, we'll move right on to the next one.
I move that the governing board approve fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for the Palm Ridge parking lot not to exceed $701,000.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Second from Bob Canaro. All right, any discussion?
I would just like to make a comment. I've made it before, but I think I want to make it again, is that Palm Ridge parking lot is really in bad shape. And we also have a list of items that can be removed from the budget in case funds are short. And I would just hope that this doesn't be one of them, because this really needs to be done unless we just have no money. Thank you.
Okay, other discussion? Any requests to hear the presentation by Carl? All right, we're going to switch gears and move over to George Cook. We need to vote on it. Yeah, I forget about that part. I was trying to move on to the next one. All right, let's start on the other side. Brian Wallace.
For clarity, this is just for the parking lot resurface itself, not the electrical, correct?
That's in the separate
Okay,
motion, yes.
thank you.
Correct.
Yes.
You vote yes. Brian Wallace
Yes.
votes yes. Young is yes.
Yes.
Canaro is yes. Maloney,
Yes.
yes. Kuchek, yes. Tim Hurley, yes.
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 Fitzsimons, yes. And Connor is yes. It is unanimous. All right, we're going to switch over to George for the next motion.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal 2020-2021 capital expenditures of the R.H. Johnson Metal Shop project not to exceed $410,000.
Okay, we need a second, please.
Second.
Second, where it's moved and seconded. Discussion?
President Sloan, I would like to say something.
Sure.
My understanding is this budgeted amount for the metal shop is a liability risk and maintenance issue and is not a request of the metal shop. The liability risk exists only when it rains and the metal shop closes that area when it rains. The rec center and the metal shop have been okay with this procedure since the beginning, and it continues. I don't think it should continue. The current space has developed over the past 20 years plus and has now been identified with safety and code violations needing correction. The metal shop and rec center are both responsible for its current state. I do not share this is maintenance, but way beyond maintenance. Charter clubs, ARC, Palo Verde Patchers, pickleball, softball, stained glass, and Zymergy, to name a few, have contributed to the improvement of their facilities. Without question, this proposed project would be an outstanding addition to the metal shop. The metal shop should join the list of other clubs who have stepped up, dug deep, and contributed to the best of their ability. I support the proposed project, but I cannot move it forward without additional funds from the metal shop. I don't believe it's right nor fair, especially during these unprecedented times. I also caution a precedent for future charter clubs, rec center, and governing board. Thank you for letting me be heard.
Would you like a response from staff on this, Donna?
I just wanted to make sure that my opinion
Your voice was
heard.
heard. Okay. Is that enough? Brian?
Yeah, I'd also like to note, along with Director Maloney, that the current situation is in direct violation of policies that we have not only for facilities, but also for chartered clubs, for having equipment that can and is being operated in an unsafe manner. And that is because of the circumstances and where the equipment has been placed. And in fact, that is a direct violation of many of our policies. And it should put the charter of the Metal Club in peril.
Okay. Are you wanting a response on that, or you just want to be
I
heard?
am not. That is just a statement of fact.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak?
Yeah.
Bob Canaro? Let's stay over here.
I just wanted to make a comment. What I can't understand is, why wasn't that area shut down when it was realized that it was a liability issue? It's been allowed to operate even after we addressed it and we're taking some action towards it. I think it's got to stop. The club has got to realize that they got to either move that equipment until it's fixed or can't operate, either one. It's my own comment.
Okay, we'll ask General Manager to respond to that question.
Thank you. This is like walking into a gym where you made a bad call a couple of years ago and you come back in and the same crowd's there. It's like, oh God, this ref's back, right? But let me start by just saying a couple of years ago, or a year ago, when I was being toured as far as all of the amenities here that the association owns, I'm pretty much taken back by the quality of the facilities that are here. These were built a while ago. They're all in pretty good shape, and it's absolutely jaw-dropping. And I think that's why the residents come here in the way they do, and the reason they stay, and they're in amazement, I think, of all the opportunities that exist. It just so happened that one day I just happened to be out there at the metal shop looking around at these facilities, and it rained. Okay? 20 years ago, whenever this happened, there was some rogue development that has taken place via the metal shop. The folks that are to blame have long been gone. And so as your general manager, I am just kind of pointing out an issue that we have. Again, when you mix water and electricity, it can be a problem. It doesn't rain all that often here in the state of Arizona, so I think it has gone overlooked for a while. So why didn't you pull the plug at the time of the scenario? Well, we met with the metal shop, and we worked out an arrangement with them for safety reasons, so that if there is any kind of inclement weather, that these machines are not to be used, okay? And we can also say the same thing, that we don't want you to take your dog off a leash, and we don't want you to stand too close to each other while playing pickleball and whatnot, but oftentimes people tend to do what they like to do, and they don't like to be told what to do by an administration, pointed out by gun threats and everything else that come through when we try to shut a swimming pool down. And so when it comes to shutting down the metal shop, there's a couple of financial things at play along when you knock a domino over, other things happen. They generally generate $124,000 of annual revenue, 16% of which come back to the association. 20% of those sales, or excuse me, 20% of the village store sales are generated by the metal shop on an annual basis, and they contribute 20 grand annually to the operational cost of the village store. Now, a lot of the money that the metal shop is generating, the vast majority of the products that they develop are not so much going back to the craftsmen who are dealing with those things, kind of like a silverware or clay club or something like that. They're providing community service to the entire association here with the development and the creation of mailboxes and trash can lids. That's the vast majority of the sales that the metal shop then and therefore produce at the village store, and there is no contribution or asset going to the craftsman at that point. It's a community service scenario. Can you advance that slide, please? Again, over a 10-year window, they're generating over $1 million worth of sales, and most of that money is really community related. So again, when we came to the governing board last year, when we notified the problem, right? It was in the middle of the budget season. I was brand new. I basically didn't have the time or the knowledge at that point to get in front of committees. I, as your general manager, realized that we have a problem, and I came forward with the help of Russ and Carl at, I don't want to say the last minute, but we were knee-deep into this budget scenario when this was brought forward. Carl, I think this attests to his talents, was given an opportunity to give me a number. Carl, how do we fix this? We have to get this fixed. So essentially, Carl, using his construction skills and the square footage needed based on how much equipment was exposed to the elements, standing in water, and where can we put that, Carl essentially came up with a quick number on the back of a napkin of about 2,500 square feet. Bill, to fix this, at X dollars a square foot, we need about $500,000. That came forward to the governing board last year. It was discussed, and the governing board, if I may, voted to design and build a 1,250 square foot metal shop renovation that reestablishes the easement and encroachments and repairs the safety and drainage issues at a cost not to exceed $250,000. Nowhere, and that was approved 8-0 by the governing board. Nowhere in that motion did it lay claim that the metal shop was responsible for a dime to help contribute to that. We took that direction to heart. We went out and we met with the metal shop countless times. We met with Maricopa County, talked to us about these easements. This is a commercial piece of real estate, right? That belongs to the recreation centers. Doesn't belong to the metal shop. This is us. If someone were to get zapped, if the wind blows, that lean-to that's attached to a wall that doesn't belong to us falls down and hits someone, the metal shop's not getting sued. It's us. So it is our due diligence to get this fixed, in my opinion, humble opinion, as your general manager. We've looked, and you see the scale in front of you. The area between the metal shop and the car wash, that triangular piece of property there that the wall is attached to, or the ceiling is attached to, Russ can't get any of his staff on that. We can't paint that building. We can't fix the soffits that are up on the edge of the roof because it's not a structurally sound facility. That's a problem. We tried to fix a way to put a cover over there to cover the machinery that's over there. Now, this isn't a sewing machine, and this isn't a small piece of equipment. These are large pieces of equipment. And so a firewall has to be established. A new wall has to be built adjacent to the car wash wall, because those are the rules within Maricopa County. And now you've got an area of space there that's really not functional to develop. That was our first problem. So we moved the facility to the back of the facility, right? They still need the number of square footage that is being proposed here today that we can still potentially negotiate, but we still have to get large pieces of equipment, I think, out of the weather. And hence, we are bringing this forth again for you, just simply telling you nothing really has changed from last year's board recommendation, the motion that was approved by the board, other than we need a little more coin to get it done. Now, when I say a little more coin, I'm not laughing off $410,000. I get it. That's a lot of money. It truly is. But is it worth a lawsuit? And I just want to say, Carl, if you could go back, please, to, well, one more thing on the $410,000. That number does have $90,000 built into it for contingency. I'm not saying we're going to spend $410,000. Carl's pretty talented, as is Russ and as are Russ's staff. So if there's things that we can do to assist any contractor hired to get this thing done at a lower price, we're going to do it. And we've done that for every capital project that I've ever been associated with, here and other places. Carl, go back to the one slide prior to this, if you would. And I just want to say, one thing here. Thinking a little bit outside the box, fresh eyes on this thing, yeah, we have a problem. But take a look at the front of this property, and what that tells me is this is something that is somewhat of a rarity inside the walls of Sun City West. Right out there you have the road that's identified as Camino del Sol. You have, in our possession here, an asset of commercial real estate with roadside frontage. That doesn't exist a lot in this community. You've got landscaping, you've got side roads, you've got all kinds of things, but commercial real estate inside Sun City West is very valuable. I'm just saying, down the road, who knows what, right? Somebody comes to us looking for a piece of property, they want to build a new Italian restaurant, right? They like that particular piece of property. We could take the sale of that property, find nice new homes for the metal shop or the Boomers or some other club that is looking for space. We turn that around, we turn that into cash, great. But what's a realtor going to do? They're going to get it inspected. And you know what? They're going to find fault with that building because the roof's attached to someone else's wall and they got some electrical problems and those types of things that need to be fixed. Who's going to fix that? The metal shop? Don't think so. It's going to fall on us. I'm just saying the money is there, presented in a balanced budget. This problem, if it doesn't go away now, we're going to be sitting here next year and I'm going to be repeating the same motions that we've talked about for the last 2 years. And from an insurance perspective, from a legal perspective, if any and all anyone gets hurt, I know it's been 20 years, I get that, but it is a liability. And that's what I'm laying my hat on, and I am just hoping that you see it this way. And again, I'm just laying it out in front of you. The governing board is the one ultimately making the decisions. Thank you.
Jim?
Does that answer your question, Bob?
Well, I don't have a problem with, I know work's got to be done. Whatever the cost will be, we'll have to work on. I just was concerned why. I know we're saying that the metal shop is not going to go out there when it's rain, but I'm sorry, I think it should just be totally closed down so that we don't have to worry about monitoring it to make sure that no one goes there. That's all I was questioning.
Would you like another more specific response to that?
No.
Okay. All right. Jim?
Carl, would you go back to the slide where you had the amounts on there? Yeah, whoops, you just, right there. It looks to me like you think that it's possible to get this done less expensive, like $320K. And I would be of the opinion that maybe we ought to just allow $320K, and anything over that, the metal club pay for it. And if they don't pay for it, we don't do it. I would like to set a maximum rather than have a variable of almost $100,000. And to me, it just makes sense to limit this thing to an expense. And if that were the case, I think it might generate a little bit more enthusiasm.
But just a reminder that the contingency goes into every project that we do, capital projects that we do. Jim.
I understand, but in
This is
this
not-
case, it wouldn't. It would be either paid by the metal shop
know.
or it wouldn't get done.
But that brings the argument back to, is this a club problem or is this an association problem? And Bill's point is that this is an association problem. So now we're saddling the club with something that's different. And so if that's the conversation that we want to have, but I don't think that's a great idea at all.
Okay?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Sue.
I'm kind of agreeing with what Jim Young is just proposing. And the reason being that we, last year, identified 1,200.
Excuse me, Sue, you got to talk into the mic. I can't hear you.
We talked about 1,200 square feet. And now the plan is for 2,800 square feet, which probably would make a fabulous, fabulous new metal shop. But if the club is not willing to cough up to make it a Cadillac project as opposed to just a small project, clear up the safety issue, I'm just not feeling the love to support that kind of thing. I really think the club has, they have the capacity to be able to make the money to support something. And our other clubs that don't even have a product to sell have had to, I mean, ARC has raffles and pickleball had all kinds of events because they had no product to sell. I just don't understand how the metal club would not want to support with an amount of money. And in Jim's scenario, that would provide an opportunity for them to do so. Maybe they need an extra 50,000, maybe it's not that amount of money. But I think we provide enough to take care of the safety issue, because definitely I think we need to take care of the safety issue. And I understand that Carl has investigated, and so I understand that we can't put a lean-to another opportunity to put it on one side. It has to be the way he has investigated it. And I want to settle this year, because otherwise it'll be there again next year. So I would be comfortable with an amendment to the motion to put it at 320, and if we want a larger area that we can't get with that amount of money, then the metal club get a loan from the association to make it a Cadillac that they'd like to see. So those are my comments.
Okay, are you making that motion?
Yeah, I think I will.
It's an amendment.
I'll make
It
that
isn't a
amendment
motion.
to the motion,
Okay, so we'll need
that
the,
instead of the 410, it would be 320. Because in truth, this is a $660,000
amendment to it.
project.
And I would support that amendment.
but, okay, let's stop for a second and figure this out parliamentarily. My understanding, you folks over there, that the smart ones in the group over that way, I am hearing that what we can do here is make an amendment to the original motion, and I need a second on that, and if fails a second, then the motion dies, the amendment dies. We can move forward with a vote of 5 to make this part of the motion, correct? Okay, so go ahead and make your motion. Would you restate it for the record, please?
I make a motion that we
Please
amend
use the
the,
word amendment, because a motion is
okay,
not an
all right,
order.
I
Amend the original motion.
amend the original
Thank you.
motion to be a total of 320,000 that we, instead of the 410 that's currently in the budget.
Is there a
Is that
second?
correct?
Second.
I want to second it, but I also wonder if you wanted to put in the amendment that if it exceeds that, the metal shop pays for it.
Point of order, you cannot do that on a motion, Jim.
You can't?
No,
Okay.
you have to put
All
an exact amount on it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
And with that,
Then I
Jim,
second it.
with that, Jim, you would be saying with that amount is the cap on it.
Okay.
Okay, here's the correction from the parliamentarians. I move that the governing board approve a fiscal 2020-21 capital expenditure for the R.H. Johnson Metal Shop project not to exceed $320K as amended.
I I question the motion. I don't think the word motion should be in there.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're making an amendment.
Jim, it's a,
Parliamentarian,
As amended,
as amended.
right.
That wasn't in the motion.
Yes, it was, at
Was
the
it?
end.
I'm sorry, I
As
didn't hear.
amended
Then I
was
said-
at the
then I-
end. Yeah, yeah.
Took a long time to get there, Jim. All right.
President
It's
Solomon?
motion and second, and just have some conversation, discussion. Donna Maloney?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say something. I just want to make sure that I understand what we're doing here. We're taking 410,000 and reducing it by 90,000, bringing it to 320. And the 410 included 90-plus contingencies. So the reality of it is, we are bringing it to 320, saying, okay, the metal shop would have to be responsible for anything over that, when we already know from Carl that 90,000 we don't expect to have to pay. So we're not really asking the metal shop to contribute anything. All we've done is taken 90,000, the contingencies, out of the 410, correct?
That's what it says.
That's-
That's what the
that's
motion
correct.
says. I'm not
But we
writing
can't
this
make a
stuff.
motion to, sorry.
That's all right, go ahead.
We
Say
we
your
can't make a
piece.
motion to tell a club to pay. I mean,
Mr. President.
We're not
could I-
able to do
Could I
that.
address the parliamentarian for a moment, please?
Certainly.
Parliamentarians, because I originally made the motion, there's been an amendment to it. Am I allowed now to speak for or against it, or only for it? I hear nodding heads. I can't hear nodding heads, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Would you like to?
No, my other directors have.
All right, other conversations, then we're going to let Carl, Brian? I'll get to Carl in just a second. I'll get to you in just a second. So, Brian Wallace first,
No, I have no comment, thank you.
okay? Yep, Tim Hurley.
Yeah, I'd just like to draw a couple comparisons to some of the other clubs that have had major projects done. Pickleball, softball, ARC, I'm leaving out one, tennis club. They asked to have the improvements made to their club, okay? The rec center then extended them a loan, which they paid back over time, to fund the improvements that they wanted. Now, the metal club caused this to happen, so they do have some culpability in this whole thing. But it has been described as a liability, and I take support what Bill has said about the fact that it's the metal. If anything happens, it's not the metal club that's going to pay; it's the rec center. The metal club has already promised to pony up $20,000. They contributed to $20,000. It would not be beyond. It would be something that I could support if if it does extend past the 320, the maximum, and we do extend a loan to the metal club which they pay back over time, which would put it more in the category of what pickleball and ARC and the other clubs have done. So I support the motion, and I would just. Here's the question. This is basically just for the walls of the structure, right? Anything that happens inside is not our.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get you an answer to that one, and Carl wants to speak into this as well. So, Carl, you want to go next?
Tim, I'll answer your question real quick. So this is for a value engineered building. Today's conversation is about 2,850 square feet, which covers the existing liability area and the displaced area behind the metal shop. So it has to cover both to have the building built in the back. The interior is just designed so that the equipment that is being displaced can be relocated in that building. It's not for anything new that the club has, in mind or anything like that. In fact, that's never even been a discussion. It's the interior electric needs, the design of the building from the architect would cover only to be able to provide same for same. But the building itself has been referenced as a Cadillac. I just want to make it very clear that this design has been very value engineered. There is no lesser building that can be designed. It's a steel stud frame building with a appropriate roofing system, as opposed to the difficult, expensive firewall system that if it was by the car wash. So, and the only other thing from a cost factor per square foot was the aesthetics. The only thing that could have made the building cheaper is from something that doesn't match our typical look of Sun City. So exterior stucco is what we chose to go with, the value engineered design.
Thank you, Carl. Just a point of clarification. We're going to set up the outside of the building and put the electrical in that will be needed for the equipment.
Correct.
The cost of moving the equipment and hooking it up to electrical, is the club going to bear that expense?
We would handle that. I believe Russ would agree that we would do that in-house. This facilities maintenance team would do moving if we need assistance from the club based on its, machinery that they're used to. They would help us, but we're moving it and putting it in the new building. And in the interim, we'll have to figure those plans out, where it gets stored while things are being disassembled and built.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'd like to also comment that based on your motion for this $320,000 additional funds, all that I will be able to provide as staff is the architectural plans taken all the way through county and then given to appropriate vendors for bidding. At that point, you have to decide at some point in this conversation, how are you proceeding forward with this second choice of making the club accountable. All I will be able to provide you at that point, based on what you're saying today, is, Carl, we're giving you this much in funds, and when I determine through multiple vendors what that true price is, we either don't have a conversation piece because it's come in the right value, or it's going to be over the value that you've approved. So please think about that today.
Okay, Jerry, you want to say something?
Yes, please. Thank you, President Sloan. First of all, my sympathies to Bill Schwinn and to Carl for all the aggravation they've been through over this issue. It's sort of like, how can I beat this down and get it over with and move on?
Can't hear you very well.
Sorry, I accidentally hit the off button. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so maybe we can say peace over today. I know you're kind of have your fingers crossed. Okay. A couple of things. One of the things Director Canaro had mentioned about, what about the safety? Couldn't you deal with it? And the answer I heard was somewhat disturbing. It sounded like you did deal with the safety issue, and the club just ignored. And that's really a bit of concern when suddenly, to deal with the safety issue, we've got to build them a very nice extension on their building. They're a good club. I like them. But the leap from safety to very nice addition to their facility is a very big one. I think we could deal with the safety issue by saying, don't use it during, take the awning down because we can't attach it to the neighboring, and if they don't obey, and put tarps over it for a rainy time, and if they don't obey, well, we've got remedies against that in terms of club charter. And there are all sorts of things you can do to deal with the basic safety issue. It's the leap from full functionality that they had forward going. That isn't a safety issue, but it is a desirable thing to accomplish for a good club. I got that. So I think we need to distinguish between the safety issue and the what's a nice project for a very good club. All right? I'm a little troubled about spending this amount of money this year on a good club with a very nice project because of what we are all aware of. As Jim, Director Young, you had mentioned, our investments went down. A lot of it is recovered. That's really good, and that was a credit to the way Vanguard has been investing the money under the direction of the association. But we're not there yet, and we know the economic future of the country is a little iffy at the moment. And so we're not quite sure financially where we're going to be next year. The second thing is to spend this amount of money now really limits our flexibility in the coming year. There are a couple projects that are really important that have to be done, and I know you have built them into a forward-going projection for the next 10 years. That's the golf courses, the irrigation, the returfing. We're not quite sure how much it's going to be, but we have a pretty good handle on that, and you've built that in. But what we haven't built in is the discretionary projects that other clubs want. Boomers wanted a very nice clubhouse, and it was running around $900,000. Do we have that built in? What about the large dog park that we thought we were going to do for a much smaller number? And then when the engineering came in, we found out we couldn't do it for even anything close to that, at least in terms of the bids we were getting. So we've taken other projects off the table that weren't properly considered, that have been on the table prior to this. And this idea of using safety to leapfrog into this very large project, I think is unfair to the other clubs and is a little iffy from a financial perspective and our obligation to safeguard the finances of the community. So I'm uncomfortable with it. I appreciate the effort to kind of ratchet down the size of the project, and I could support that. I'm not terribly thrilled about it, but I appreciate that as an important step forward. But I have all of these other concerns that I've mentioned.
Okay, other discussion?
I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, we have an amendment to the original motion that will be voted on first. So what we're amending to, would you read it again, please, Sue? We're going to, is that the correct process? Bonnie, those folks, we're going to vote on the amendment to the motion. Can't hear you, Sue.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for the R.H. Johnson Metal Shop project not to exceed $320,000 as amended.
And we have a second on the floor. The question, we will call for the question with a voice vote. And we will start with Mr. Connor.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Mr. Connor votes yes. Ms.
Yeah.
Simon votes
Yes.
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 Tim. Mr. Hurley votes yes. Mr. Kuchek votes yes. Mrs. Maloney votes
No.
no. Bob Canaro
Yes.
votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Young votes yes. Mr. Wallace
Yes.
votes yes. The vote is 7-1 in favor of the new number of $320,000 to move the project forward. All right, thank you all. Then we had. Okay, so restate the restated motion would be as amended, though, correct? Okay, so George, would you do that for us, please?
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal 2020-21 capital expenditure for the R.H. Johnson Metal Shop project as amended.
And we have a second on the floor.
Second.
And we'll do voice vote.
Second.
Go to Mr. Wallace first.
No.
Wait a minute, you're voting no on this project? Is that what you just said?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Mr. Young? Yes. Yes? Bob?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Canaro's yes. Ms. Maloney
No.
is a no. Mr. Kuchek?
Yes.
Is a yes. Tim Hurley's a
Yes.
Tim Hurley's a yes. Ms. Fitzsimon's
Yes.
a yes. And Jerry Connor
Yes.
is a yes. So we have 2 noes and 6 yeses on that. All right. That's good. All right, let's move forward. Yeah, we're moving right along 4. This is number 4 coming up. All right, Jerry, go to 4, please.
Okay. I move that the governing board approve fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Desert Trails Bunker Project not to exceed $290,000.
Go ahead, Tim.
I second.
Good. We have second discussion? Any discussion? You want a presentation on it, Tim?
Yeah, I just want to say, our golf courses are several years old. Some of them are 25, 30 years old. These things have useful lives. The sand traps, the bunkers have useful lives. We have completed the bunker projects on all 6 of the other courses. This is the last course to be done, and I recommend that we vote yes on this.
Okay. Any discussion, other discussion? All right, let's go forward. Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Young votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro votes yes.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kuchek votes yes. Mr. Hurley votes
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Fitzsimon, don't get ahead of me, Sue. Sue Fitzsimon votes yes,
Yes.
and Jerry Connor votes
Yes.
Yes, Jerry Connor votes yes. All right, it is moved, and may it be so. All right, keep going, Jerry.
I move that the governing board approve for fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for golf maintenance vehicles not to exceed $253,004.
Okay, we have a
Second.
second. There's a second. Any discussion? You want to hear what they are and all that stuff? Tim?
It was
Tim Hurley.
myself. I just want to comment that these replacement vehicles are in the R&R plan already, and this is a roll-up. This is not just one issue, or one vehicle. This is a roll-up of many vehicles, and I do recommend the board vote yes.
Okay, further discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to comment. It is a roll-up, and that's appropriate under our policies to keep from circumventing the restrictions of the policies and the bylaws on board approval. So it was done entirely appropriately, and I appreciate your doing it.
Okay, any other comments? All right, let's vote. Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Connor votes yes.
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimon votes yes. Mr. Hurley votes yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Kupchak votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Malone, Ms. Loney.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro, Mr. Young.
Yes.
Votes yes, and Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
It is unanimous. Vote, all right, keep going, Jerry.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for sports pavilion bowling scoring system replacement not to exceed $240,000.
Okay,
Support, second.
and Mr. Young seconds. 905 on the end. 240,905 is the number.
Thank you, I misspoke.
You missed the nine.
$240,905.
It's only 990, yeah.
It's
Not
Bill's
that
tip.
big a deal. All right,
Do you need a second?
discussion, we have a second already,
I'll
Mr. Young
Oh, Jim already
seconded.
did it, okay.
Any discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace votes yes. Mr. Young votes?
Yes.
Yes. Mr.
Yes.
Carroll votes
Yes.
Ms. Maloney votes yes. Mr. Kupchak votes yes. Tim Hurley votes?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons votes?
Yes.
Yes, and Mr. Connor votes yes. Yes. Okay. Phew. This is, okay, good, keep going.
Okay. I move that the governing board approve for fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Pebblebrook Golf Course shoreline repair, hole number 18, not to exceed $221,450.
Second.
We have a second from Tim Hurley. All right, any discussion? It's another one of these projects, Tim, you want to talk about?
Yeah, just like that our bunkers age and they change their shape and enlarge, our lakes do the same thing. The shoreline of the lakes erode in by natural causes several feet. In fact, behind number 18 at Pebblebrook, it's intruded into the golf course by about 10 feet. And it has made that 18th hole very unaccepting of shots into the green. And anything that hits the back half of the green is in the water. And this would be a project similar to the one that they did on 17 at Trail Ridge, and it has greatly improved playability. Plus, this is a lake that's on one of our major roads, and to have a lake that's got a shabby shoreline needs to be improved.
Okay, other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes?
Did we ask the Swan, we only have two
don't.
left. Did we ask the Swan if we approved of this thing?
I've got the affidavit
You
on
did.
file.
Todd
Other
said he
discussion?
did.
Other discussion,
Yeah.
Brian, you want to say?
Fred signed it, okay.
Fred signed it. Okay, we're ready for a vote. Start, Mr. Wallace
Yes.
is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Young is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney is a yes. Mr. Kupchak is a yes. Mr. Connor is a yes. Ms. Fitzsimons is a
Yes.
yes. And Mr. Hurley
Yes.
is a yes. All right, keep going, Jerry.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Recreation Center HVAC repair and replacement not to exceed $219,606.
I second.
Second, Bob Canaro, seconds. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, why do we need air conditioning?
You want Carl to go through his thing on this?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. So let's keep going. Any other conversation, or we need to vote on it? Let's go ahead and vote. Let's start with Mr. Hurley. Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley votes yes. Ms. Fitzsimon votes
Yes.
yes. Mr. Connor votes yes. Mr. Kuchek votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Maloney votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Canaro, yeah, and Mr. Young votes yes, and Mr.
Yes.
Wallace votes yes. It is unanimous. All right, Jerry, keep going.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Beardsley Flat Roof Restoration not to exceed $198,000.
Lot of money. Second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Wallace. Discussion?
Yeah, I thought we were doing both this and the library,
This
Carl.
is farther down. The library's farther down.
Oh,
Obviously,
okay, I
you've
can't
studied
read.
the
Too
material.
Small print, folks. You
No,
gotta
it-
get this a little bigger.
Yeah. We'll try to,
Get the,
we'll try to get it
bring
to you
Braille
early.
on,
Any other
will ya?
discussion on this? All right, we're going to vote here on it. Mr. Wallace
Yes.
is a yes. Mr. Young is a yes. Mr. Young is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro is a yes. Don't get ahead of me, Miss Maloney, please. Miss
see,
Maloney
okay.
is
Yes.
a yes. Mr. Kuchek is a yes. Mr. Hurley
Yes.
and Ms. Fitzsimons
Yes.
is a yes. And Mr. Connor is a yes. All right,
what-
keep going.
I move that the governing board approve for fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Pebblebrook Golf Course parking lot not to exceed $187,000.
We need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hurley, seconded. Conversation? Discussion?
I do have a point to make on
Okay.
these parking lots. And this goes back to the reserve study and the reserve percentage. When the reserve study was first done, parking lots were not in the reserve study. And once we've put them in, that's one of the reasons why the ratio has changed. Just wanted to throw that out.
Good point. Yeah, that's one of the learning things we did, wasn't it? during
I
that
do have a
process?
question on that. Is
Yep.
this being done because it's really needed, or is this being done because we're closing the course down?
It's really needed, and it's just coincidental that it's being done while the course is
Okay,
closed.
I have not witnessed it, and I just want to make sure
We
it's
did
really
the same
needed.
thing at Echo Mesa last year.
I know we did, but I want to make sure this has to be done. I'm happy.
All right, let's vote. Let's vote. Mr. Kuchek?
Yes.
Is a yes. Ms. Maloney?
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Canaro? Is a yes. Mr. Young? Is
Yes.
a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Wallace is a yes. Mr. Connor is a yes. Mr. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr. Hurley
Yes.
is a yes. All right, keep it going.
I move that the governing board approve for fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Palm Ridge parking lot and walkway lighting not to exceed $175,000.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hurley. That's this project out here for lighting. All right.
To the point on that one,
Conversation.
this is a project that's going to be accompanied with the parking lot redoing while it's being tore up and done. All the electrical and lighting will be replaced. And Russ, if I'm correct, that's also LED lighting that's being put in there? Yes, it is. Thank you.
Well, I think we've also had some problems with lighting at night with people coming out of the auditorium, so I think it's very badly needed.
Other discussion?
I just want to point out, it is cost-effective to do the parking lot surface as well as the lighting at the same
Right,
time.
at the same time.
And I appreciate those being
Right.
timed together. Thank you,
Right.
staff.
It's, yeah, all right. Okay, we're going to go to a vote. Mr. Wallace
Yes.
is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Young is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney is a yes. Mr. Kuchek is a yes. Mr. Hurley is a
Yes.
yes. Ms. Fitzsimons
Yes.
is a yes. And Mr. Connor is a yes. All right, unanimous. Please, keep going.
I move that the governing board approve for fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for R.H. Johnson swim and fitness hallways, lockers, and restrooms not to exceed $170,000.
Second, please.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hurley, seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to hear, Carl has done such a good job in finding substitutes for so many projects. We're tearing up some awful good tile here because it's slippery. And I understand the safety issue, but are we saying that there is no way to try anything else other than tearing this stuff all up, Carl? I got to hear that again.
We have asked the same grout professionals that recently restored the sports pavilion The only recommendation he can give us is a spray-on application of some kind of grit. And then the negative part of that is that almost immediately after heavy traffic use, which we all know that these areas do get heavy traffic, that would dissipate in the main walkways. And all you would have is basically a sprayed application with some form of, I don't have the exact information with me, some form of textured surface off to the sides that would still be there, but the center walkway areas where everybody commonly walks would dissipate, and we'd have to do it over and over again.
What about putting trenches, huh?
Ruts,
What?
little ruts.
Yeah, little ruts or, I don't know. It just seems to me like this is a waste of money.
I have to say that the idea, seems valid, but aesthetics comes into play, and, what's the engineering factor on a rut? Who's going to do that work?
Have you seen it done any place?
No, sir.
I'd like to put this off until we find out. Talk about Jerry, he's got a good point. I'm really scared about the income next year. And if we can put off some of these projects, I understand the safety issue, and I think we need to look at it very seriously, but I think there's gotta be something better than digging this good. Let me ask this, if there was not a slippery issue, when would you have this on the list to replace?
Your mic on, Mike? Jimmy? Your mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. When would we replace this if we didn't do it? I think it'd be 10 years, wouldn't it, or more? Yeah. When was it done? Do you remember?
I don't remember when, but it was a Larry Griffith, Cindy Knowlton combination style project. So yes, the tile looks very wonderful. Unfortunately, they didn't give any concern to slip coefficient, which is what we do now. I agree with you. It's gorgeous tile, and we probably wouldn't, if it wasn't a slip issue, be addressing this for another 10 years. However, it is. We've tried Jiffy Slip, all these things that you put on the surface. It attracts dirt, it wears off, and there's no way to tell that it's no longer there. So it's a wasted effort, basically.
Well, the other issue I have is that we're tearing up, or we're removing and replacing all the lockers to put tile underneath stuff we're not even going to see. And that's another issue that I have. If we just took the tile and put it in where we got it, I don't know, I'm just totally opposed to this project. I think we need to save someplace, and this is not the place to spend our money until you guys do some more work.
Are you satisfied with the work that you've done on this, trying to remediate without replacing it?
Absolutely.
So you've done all of the grit
Complaints
stuff.
still
and
pour in, the accident forms pour in.
I've been in that locker room, and it is slippery, dangerous right now. It's seriously bad.
We've even tried mats, and the mats get tripped over. They don't work.
And they get soggy and all that stuff.
It's unfortunate.
All right, other conversation, other discussion. Brian?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Director Young. If we're going to do this, why do we have to put non-slip flooring underneath the lockers? Just doesn't make sense to me. And I know I've heard the discussion about what if we want to reconfigure later on? Well, let's deal with later on.
You want to answer that, Carl?
When you look at the whole entire project is in the terms of square footage, the lockers take up so little space that, and I already have to hire a vendor to remove all the partitions, all the restroom stalls, all the changing booth metal. So I think the cost of moving lockers and putting the flooring underneath is minimal in consideration of the whole project cost.
Okay, would you reconsider that, looking at that when it comes time to do it, though, of course? I mean, with the vendor, speaking of, if you could save a couple bucks by doing it that way?
I will look into it.
Isn't that a normal process that you would go through anyway?
Well, we've already written the scope of work, so I mean, this is a new
I see.
discussion to this project.
Okay. Does that satisfy you two fellows over there?
Well, to an extent, but I don't see why not posting prominent signs that says caution slippery when wet.
Yeah, like
Would
they
be an
read,
interim
like we read
solution.
signs around here, yeah. Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
I think we have found, I'm sorry, if I may.
Sure, Jerry?
I think we found out with Beardsley that our past experience wasn't a good guide to future because we had used what we had done in the past and we found out it was slippery and we had to take significant steps to make it safe for our community.
Right.
I appreciate that we're now looking at slip coefficient. Thank you very much. And I think this is just part of a larger thought process on how to make surfaces safe for our community.
Okay. Any other conversation? All right, we're going to go ahead and vote. Let's start over here. Mr. Connor? Yes. Votes yes. Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzsimon votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hurley votes yes. Mr. Kuchek votes yes. Ms. Maloney?
Yes.
Yes.
Canaro votes yes. Mr.
No.
Is a no.
Yes.
And a yes on Brian Wallace. All right, it carries 7-1. All right, Mr. Connor.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for Beardsley Park transformer and electrical restoration not to exceed $165,000.
Support, second? Oh, go ahead.
Second, Mr. Kuchek, seconded. Any conversation on this? Do we need a reminder of what this is about, why we're doing this? We've been through it
No, it's
several
certainly
times.
badly needed, I can tell you that. I go to them performances and they suck.
It's not just the electrical.
All right, anything else, want a conversation? All right, let's go right to a vote then. Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Simon is a yes. Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr. Kuchek is a yes. Maloney is a
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro is a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Young is a yes. And Mr. Wallace
Yes.
is a unanimous yes. All right, keep
I
going.
would just like to clarify that he didn't mean you guys sitting over there. Thank you.
No disrespect, Casey. You weren't throwing it.
I didn't want him to amplify what he was talking about, actually. So. Keep going, Mr. Connor.
All right, I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for R.H. Johnson Library Flat Roof Restoration not to exceed $147,700.
Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Canaro. All right, conversation?
Yeah, my page doesn't say library on there, that's why I didn't understand it.
It does.
My page doesn't say library, it says flat roof.
Oh, he's looking at a different one. We're all looking at this one.
Oh, well, that's because you're smarter than I am.
Yeah,
What
well,
can I tell you? I'm from New York.
there is that. I'm not, should we make a motion on that or not? Conversation, let's do discussion, please. All right, let's vote. Mr. Connor? Yes. Yes, Ms. Fitzsimon?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr. Kuchek? Yes. Is a yes. Ms. Maloney
Yes.
is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro, Mr. Young?
Yes, now
is
that
a
I'm looking
yes.
at the right sheet.
Thank you, is a yes, and Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Is a yes, it is unanimous. Keep going, Jerry.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for 25 golf carts not to exceed $123,600.
Okay, second?
I'd like to second that, please.
Second by Vice President Kuchek. Any conversation on this? Yes.
Yeah, when this came up at the workshop, I asked where these carts are going to be stored because my understanding was that the storage at each course was fairly limited as far as carts go.
Did you
And I
get it?
never did get an answer
You
to
didn't
that.
get an answer? All right, Pat is here. Pat, could you come for? Pat, could you come up to the microphone over here by Carl, please? We want to get you on the camera, so there's historical relevance to this and all that.
He forgot to comb his hair.
Yeah.
How do I look?
Well,
The purpose for the 25 carts is to replace some existing carts that we have. Their average age is 9.5 years. To Mr. Hurley's point, we have a storage area down at Stardust, and we're going to reconfigure it, not from a physical footprint, but from what's inside of it, and we'll make room for that. Our goal here is to trade in 10 to 15 carts and expand our fleet so that we have more carts to share during peak season. and maximize our revenue. So storage shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you.
That answers your question? Okay. Any other discussion? Yes?
Go ahead.
Mr. Wallace?
So Pat, these are carts then for use for players. They're not
Rental.
other carts for rental, not their carts for maintenance and so forth that goes on. And I know
Correct.
that's a separate, okay.
Correct. We have
Thank you.
156 cart fleets in our cart fleet, and we're going to expand it to another 15 or so.
How many different types of carts do we have in our fleet?
In the carts that we rent, we use EasyGo, so all of them are the same manufacturer.
Wow, when I was in the authority before, they were the worst. But anyway, have
Things
you ever
change,
thought?
Jim.
Have you ever thought of electric? And are they more advantageous?
The challenge with electric is it's a limited charge for us, and we end up turning our carts twice in a day.
Okay.
First couple of years, it works out great, but as they degrade, it doesn't behoove us to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, other discussion? All right, let's vote. Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Young votes yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canaro votes yes. Ms.
Yes.
Maloney votes yes. Mr. Kuchek votes yes. Mr. Connor votes yes. Ms. Fitzsimon votes
Yes.
yes. And Mr. Hurley votes yes.
Yes.
Who would have thought on that one? All right, Mr. Connor.
I move that the governing board approve a fiscal year 2020-21 capital expenditure for safety and structural integrity allowances not to exceed $100,000.
Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Young. Could you spend a minute talking about what this means to us, what structural and safety and structural, Carl, or one of you, please?
Surely. Safety and structural integrity is allowance, unanticipated property repairs. An example of that from this current fiscal year that we are in would be the tennis tower ramp that we have just completed as of this week. In that application, the roof wore out. It's not something that would be typically marked in our reserve and repair and replacement area list, so required repair, and this is how it would be used in the future.
Okay. Any questions to Russ or anyone else? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and vote on this thing. All right, Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. votes yes?
Yes.
Mr. Young is yes?
Yes.
Mr. Canaro is yes?
Yes.
Ms. Maloney is yes?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchek is yes? Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Is yes. Ms. Fitzsimons?
Yes.
Is yes. And Mr. Connor is yes. It is unanimous. All right. So that's the 16 over $100,000. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Now, the next thing, I think we'll push forward instead of taking a break. I know a number of us are probably ready for a stretch, but let's push forward. There's two items left to deal with, and we're going to go through the 50 to 99,000. I'll take a motion first from you, Jerry, on that, please, and then we will discuss and decide what to do next.
I move that the governing board approve fiscal year 2020-21 capital $50,000 to $99,999 expenditures in gross to include golf well pump motor replacement not to exceed $95,000, Pebblebrook putting green removal and replacement not to exceed $90,000, recreation changing demographics not to exceed $75,000, sports pavilion memos gas line project not to exceed $75,000, Beardsley pool heater B1 replacement not to exceed $64,736, Kunz fitness room expansion equipment not to exceed $60,000. R.H. Johnson flooring mini golf carpet not to exceed $56,000. And R.H. Johnson lecture hall audio visual not to exceed $51,500.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Second, please.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Canaro. All right, discussion?
Yes.
You want an explanation? Yes, sir. Mr.
I would like to remove two items that I don't want to support in any unanimous vote.
Okay,
Pebblebrook putting green, Mimo's gas line.
Okay, we need a second. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Wallace seconds it. We will have discussion. Let's see, so we're going to amend the original, is that what you're saying?
I don't know yes.
You would amend the original motion to withdraw those two items. So
Correct.
the gas line and the putting green.
Correct.
Yeah, shouldn't we separate them
think
out
so.
into two different,
I'm sorry?
shouldn't we separate them out into two different votes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do. We're
Not-
going to
not
decide
together.
now whether we want to take them out.
Well, I think they should be dealt with separately.
Oh, each separately?
Yes.
Each of them separately, I see, okay. Okay, so would you amend your amendment?
Yes, so I would amend the fact that we remove the Pebblebrook putting green and the Mimos gas, dealing with those separately.
Separately, okay. And we have a second by Mr. Wallace on that, correct still, Mr. Wallace? Yes. Okay. All right, let's have a conversation first on the putting green. You want to speak why would you like to have it removed, Mr.
Yes.
Young, and then you? Just a minute.
I think this is a want, not a need. I don't think that again, I think that we have to find some places to cut our expenses, and this is one of them that can be. I don't think it's a necessary evil. We have a putting green there, so it rolls a little bit. Big deal. The putters better learn how to putt on a roll. And they don't have to putt straight putts all the time, and I think that it should remain there. The Mimos gas I wanted because I'm not.
Let's just
I'm
stay
sorry,
with, just
one at-
a
I'm
minute.
sorry,
Let's
I
just
said
stay
one
with
at a
one.
time.
George is next, Brian, then you.
Brian, well, just a moment. Point of order on this one. Are we to vote on the in-gross things and then handle each one of these other ones separately first? That's what the motion said, that we want to handle the Mimos gas line, the Pebblebrook Putting Green separately. So are we going to discuss the in-gross first or handle these individual ones first? That's my question.
Right.
I mean, really, it would be, if in-gross, we take that off and then we handle the other two.
I
Need some
think
help
the
from the smart people over there.
motion was,
Okay?
That's what I'm saying.
So what I'm hearing you say is that as Jerry read the motion, which includes all of these items, we're going to vote on that first
No.
without those two items in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll come back to them.
I agree.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so without those two items, we're going to, unless there's further discussion, we're going to vote on this motion minus the Pebblebrook putting green and the gas line project.
did we take a vote on the agreement to remove those two items yet?
We were just informed by the parliamentarian that we're going to vote on the in-gross, and then we're going to come back and vote on those
Okay.
two, see if we want to deal with them. Okay, any other discussion? All right, let's vote. Mr. Connor, please. Yes. Is a yes? Mr.
Yes.
Fitzsimon's a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley's a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchek's a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Maloney's a
Yes.
yes? Mr. Canaro is a yes? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Is a yes, and Mr. Wallace is a yes?
Yes.
Correct? All right. Now, there is an amendment to the, no, this would be another motion then, wouldn't it?
We just handle them separately as a motion.
Okay, so, Karen, you didn't do motions on these, so Jim's gonna have to make this up, which is a scary thing, yeah. Give it a try, Jim. You'd like to have it withdrawn. I make a motion.
Well, it's already withdrawn. You've already voted on the rest of it.
No.
Well, it is. I'm sorry, you voted on the rest of it, so they aren't in there. I'm sorry, that's,
I can help him with a motion on this if you'd like.
Sure.
I can't hear you, so.
Here's what you need to do on the putting green, which is the first of the two removed items.
Right.
You're going to move to, that the governing board approve the Pebblebrook putting green removal and replacement not to exceed $90,000. That's the first item.
I can't do that because I want to talk against it and I can't make a motion.
Well, somebody has to.
Well, I'm not gonna.
Karen, I'll be happy, since I will not speak for or against either one of these. I move that the government will approve fiscal 2020, 2021 capital expenditure for Pebblebrook Putting Green removal and replacement not to exceed $90,000.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hurley's. A second discussion?
Well, I pretty much said it. Do I have to say it again?
Yeah. No.
I think it's a.
Only if
I
you want
think
it counted.
I think it's a want, and I don't think it's a need, and I think it's something that can be put off for the next time we do the, I know that they're doing the golf course renovation, but that doesn't mean we need to spend an extra $90,000 to fix it. We're spending enough money on that golf course as it is with the water putting, or with the poor swan we're taking out of the effort. I don't know, that poor swan's got a, I don't know. But anyway, I just think that this should be not voted on.
Okay, Mr. Wallace?
I think we were told by Todd Patty earlier, too, that he wasn't even certain that we'd be able to get it done this year. So I think it makes it a reasonable candidate to defer for the next board and the next budget cycle.
Okay, any other conversation? Discussion? Discussion, Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to get clarification on the point that Brian, Director Wallace just made
Yeah.
about us not being able to get it done.
Mr. Patty, would you come up and help us with this, please? At a meeting, we were at a BNF meeting, I think you made the comment that there may be a problem getting this done this year from a vendor perspective.
Just to give you a little background on the putting green, the current size is about 5,900 square feet. It is the smallest of the regulation golf courses. We estimated we could enlarge that to about 8,800 square feet, which would make it more in line with the other regulation courses. This would level the putting surface, reduce the severity of the slope, install new drainage and irrigation, and regrass with 328. I was proposing that we would not do the project this summer, but we would fund the project and do it in the 2021 budget. That way we could start it in May. The reason that we couldn't do it this year, it'd just be a little bit late start. Doing it in July wouldn't give us time to establish the grass going into overseeding. So if we weren't funding the project in this budget, we'd have to wait till next budget, so that project wouldn't get done until the summer of 2022.
That answer your question, Tim?
Yes. And the reason for wanting to start it in May is so that you can get the Bermuda sod down while the rest of the Bermuda is coming back from dormancy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, with that new Bermuda grass, you want to give it a really good chance to get rooted before you go into the fall overseeding, because if you do it too late, where it's not established and you overseed into it, you usually have a very rough transition the next year where a lot of it doesn't come back. That's why you'd want to do it probably in mid-May.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah, basically what I'm hearing is that we're gonna fund it, but not start it until the end of next fiscal year.
And if the economic collapse happens, as there's fear of, which is all in our minds on this, it would be deferred anyway. We're not going to move forward if we don't have any money to move forward.
Right.
So that would be a staff decision, but it certainly would be something that would be proposed. Okay. Any other discussion? We're going to vote on this first one. Mr. Wallace?
Can I clarify, we are voting to
Sorry.
remove this?
Read the motion again. We'll read the motion again. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. I move the governing board approve fiscal 2020, 2021 capital expenditure for Pebblebrook Putting Green removal and replacement not to exceed $90,000.
Okay.
Got it.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Canaro?
Yes.
Yes is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kuchek's a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hurley's a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimon's a yes. Yes. And Mr. Connor is a yes, and the vote is 6-2 in favor of it moving forward. All right, George, do the second motion, please. This is on the Mimo's gas line.
I move that the governing board approve fiscal 2020, 2021 capital expenditure for Sports Pavilion Mimo's gas line project not to exceed $75,000.
Okay, I'd like to have an explanation what this actually is about.
Second.
We have a second over here. Mr. Wallace seconds it. Carl?
Yes, thank you. So Russ Boston introduced this project to me and asked that I get county planning and design through an architect to reestablish the appliances in Memo's Cafe from electric to gas. So this is an internal pipeline addition, taking the electric appliances off our grid so that we don't have the impact that we're currently experiencing. Memo's is responsible for purchasing the new appliances, and the other portion that's involved in this is the establishment of a Southwest gas line, which exists in our front parking lot, right off the walkways, and gets tied into the building.
Okay, why would we not just upgrade our electrical, Carl?
The cost that I would assume, because I have not done any study on that, that our panel's not just readily available to be upgraded. And so that would be a cost that's probably larger than doing this gas line. Electric costs more than gas, and it would also be coming from the same direction that the gas line project is, so it would be some electrical utility from Meeker or R.H. Johnson to Memo's. So it wouldn't be a matter of just, you know, throwing a little electricity at the existing boxes. It would be adding panels.
Okay, discussion?
So do I understand that I turned it off? Do I understand that if we didn't do the gas line, we would have to run an electric line, which would be more expensive than the gas line? Is that what somebody's telling me? Let's Russ talk. Talk, Russ, speak.
So, currently, we are fine electrically, but we are maxed out. His utilities, his grill, all of his electrical stuff needs to be replaced. He had asked once before if we'd look into gas. Just on a monthly basis, we're gonna save money every single month because it's cheaper to run him off of gas than it is electric. We did the same thing over to Crooked Putter. We did that years ago. So we're just looking at our benefit out of it is we get that grid back. So he's like a 50-pound weight on our back, and we're gonna take him off, and it's gonna free up a bunch of stuff. If we didn't do anything, he now has to replace his electrical equipment, and we continue to pay high electric bills.
So go ahead. So you're saying that this is actually a cost-effective because we're going to
Yes,
pay it back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you look at your bills at home, and compare your high-use electric bill to your high-use gas bill, and you tell me. So you modify that by what we use here, and that pretty much spells it
I
out.
don't have gas, so I can't compare.
I don't either. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, it
George, you want to
answered
say
it.
something?
Thank you.
George was trying to say something. Mr. Wallace, go ahead, please.
Russ, since this will obviously be separately metered, will Memos be responsible for the gas cost?
I don't believe they would, because I don't think we charge the Crooked Putter either. It's all worked into whatever their rent is. So they're under an agreement, a rental agreement.
Right.
So, okay.
All right, George? Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, Russ, once again, this is really to do with the size of the switchgear and the electrical that we have in the sports pavilion there that is maxed out.
That's correct.
In other words, if we want to improve the electrical in there, we would have to replace the structure of that transformer and the switchgear that's in those utility areas.
That is correct.
To begin with.
We are
And-
maxed out.
Right, and that would be by far more costly than running gas in.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, Russ, can you tell me who owns the electrical appliances there now?
I believe under contract, we owned them when he took over. Anything that has to be replaced is at his expense.
So when he replaces it with gas appliances, do those become ours?
I believe they are his. I would have to read the details in the contract. I do not remember.
They're his, so if he does move out at some point, we're going to need to replace those appliances anyway.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more discussion? We're going to go for a vote right now. Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hurley's a yes. Mr. Kuchek is a yes. Ms. Maloney is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Canero's a yes. Mr.
Staff
Young
convinced me, yes.
is a yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Wallace
Yes.
is a yes. It is unanimous. All right. All right, so they are all moving forward. All right, let's move on to the thing. Now, you're going to spend some time with this first, and then, or we want to make a motion first, please, and then we'll have a little bit of a presentation, and we'll go for it.
Just to alert the directors, I've been given an amended motion to reflect prior action, so what you have in front of you won't be what I'm reading. I move that the governing board approve the fiscal year 2020-21 operating and capital budget as amended.
As amended and discussed today.
I will second that.
And we have a second. Okay, so before we do discussion, I would like the general manager to spend some time with this, and then we'll come back to the motion. I don't want to go through all of the operating items and the expense and all that stuff. He'll give us a brief overview, but what I really want to spend some time with is the fees and the dues increases, those kinds of things, and then we'll have a conversation.
You're going to lose some of us because that
Yeah.
potty chair down there looks good.
Yeah. Let's take, before we start, Mr. Schwinn, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute break, please, and reestablish our equilibrium. the music very much, but it's a good time to stop. Okay, so where we were, we have a motion to approve the budget as amended, and we are just ready to start with the general manager giving us a quick overview, and then we will spend some time with the fees and dues. All right?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yes.
Moving on, hopefully you can read that screen like I can.
Yeah, that's
Pretty good.
really.
But I do want to touch base on, obviously, our goals and objectives, working with you and your goals and objectives to maintain and enhance the assets of the association. I mean, that's prime to us, that is critical. We've also put together a financial plan that basically meets the reserve fund requirements, looking at percentages and the new percentages that were recently set by the governing board. We are there. We continue to invest in new projects. And overall, I know I know Jerry made comment, as did Mr. Wallace, relative to making sure projects, when coming forward over $50,000, are obviously brought in front of the governing board for approval. We did meet. We've identified about $1.7 million in capital expenditures that, if the revenues aren't there, as we move through the fiscal year and we present these to you, you will have an opportunity on a monthly basis with the B&F committees and others, to look at where we are financially and then make those decisions whether to approve and move forward with these projects or not. So there's a lot of opportunity for assessment and keeping an eye on how things are going. Moving on to the assumptions in our budget this year. Obviously, the big hitter in the program is a mandated scenario relative to minimum wage set upon us by the state of Arizona. So beginning in July, we'll be looking at $12 an hour for a lot of individuals. I think 52% of our staff are affected by that. Our membership dues are having a modest increase of $17 per person annually. We'll be making no changes to the APF fees, but based on policy changes that the governing board has put forward, we'll be looking at increasing our collection of APF revenue due to the facts that we capitalize now on inherited properties, some various types of rentals, a software program that we've recently got into, which is, we consider what's called REDS. So any kind of title changing going on through Maricopa County that may have fallen through the cracks in previous years, we have the ability to get notifications of all changes now, and we take advantage of that, which generates more revenue for us. And then, as you probably have visually seen, behind Goodwill, there is construction going on. Currently, right now, we've got horizontal infrastructure going in. I'm told that come December of this year, calendar year, vertical construction will begin on 50 new homes behind Goodwill. And so that's a positive sight for us. And I'm told that sometime in the month of late January, early February, they should have model homes up there for people to view and purchase. Moving on. Thank you. Looking at our overall budget summary. Again, when it comes to revenues, mandatory minimum wage increase, golf fees have been put together and addressed to help offset future irrigation needs as far as that goes. So we are seeing that take place. And when it comes to expenditures in our overall budget, again, it's the minimum wage mandate, some new contracts that we've picked up, obviously some contracts and some software that deal with the board documents that we deal with. I mentioned the REDS program. Again, these assets now, from a software perspective, come with revenue also that brings money in to help offset the cost of those. We are dealing now with golf lessons and some various things associated with the new golf laboratory that should open up pretty quickly at Grandview. So more revenue will be coming our way through that, as well as a youth scheduling program that allows people to not only book new golf lessons, but other aspects of utilizing our golf courses. Insurance costs have gone up a little bit, and it's really nothing to do with activities or incidents that have taken place within our association, but kind of nationally. Insurance companies around have been hit by various types of things, obviously, and that then entails increases to any and all carriers, and they have been passing those down to us as well. And then legal and professional planning, you'll see an increase as far as that goes, and that was simply because there have been issues such as the master plan and other things that take place within our association in the past have been listed as capital items, and they're really not, so they've been moved into the operational side of our operation. So, breaking it down a little bit briefly by department, the changes that you see when it comes to recreation, you'll notice a reduction in revenue. And that is due to the fact of various attendance numbers are going to be affected and have been affected currently and will continue to be affected, I believe, by the COVID-19 issue. So when it comes to group meetings, group concerts, large gatherings, and those types of things, I think we'll see a little bit of a decrease in ticket sales and how those things are attended. So we've accounted for that within the budget. And again, when it comes to the recreational staff, mandatory minimum wage issues are also addressed when it comes to putting that budget together. Moving on to the golf division, you'll notice an increase in golf fees. We've got an estimated number as far as the number of rounds go, so the numbers are looking pretty positive. What we're dealing with as far as putting this budget together is we did take a 3-year average on the actual rounds of golf being played. So not so much a kind of out on the limb projection of what we think we might attend, but based on 3 years average, I think it's a pretty sound and safe budget number to use. Again, golf also has been hit rather largely by the increase in minimum wage. And then I think what we're actually showing here at the end of the day, we're attempting to bring in about $300,000 new net revenue that will help offset future irrigation needs when it comes to generating some money to help offset the cost of replacing irrigation systems. So that is a positive note. Moving on to the sports pavilion division, again, there's some nominal rate increases when it comes to the bowling scenario. Lineage numbers could vary as far as what we've got projected here. Again, a COVID-19 scenario when it comes to spacing. As we open up in a week, I believe Barry's got it set up where we'll kind of be using every other lane, whether it's odd or even, depending on that, give us an opportunity to get the other lanes cleaned and not used to provide some spacing for the folks utilizing the bowling alley and that type of thing. So we could see a little bit of a hit when it comes to the amount of lineage that we are getting out of the sports pavilion. And then lastly, when it comes to the general and administrative budget, we are looking at a membership increase at 3.5%. Again, that equates to about $17 annually to each member. We're showing a variance in there of an increase of about 2% in revenue, and that is simply because a lot of residents, we don't collect all that money at one time, and so people who have paid their $480 for this year in April, May, or June, obviously we will not be collecting their money until later on in the year. So the 3.5% increase in revenue that we're projecting is not a full year run, so we are showing that as a 2% advance. Other issues when it comes to general administration, we talked about a little bit, new contract services, board docs, REDS, use scheduling, our insurance costs, as well as legal and professional fees. So moving on, what you have in front of you, the next 4 or 5 pages show a 5-year forecast when it comes to our capital needs, and that this takes you all the way down from the high end of our budget request that you recently approved, from the $700,000 range, from golf equipment all the way down to items that are $5,000. And again, we all know that there has been a list developed that you all have seen, and that's been run through committees based on about $1.7 million worth of projects within that entire list that are considered deferrable. And so as the economy does what the economy does, we will have the ability to assess those projects as we go. And again, everything up and over $50,000 will have board approval as to whether or not we move forward or not. And so what you'll see on the bottom line as far as the next 4 or 5 years out, we do drop next year. You will see a spike in there, and that is because we currently have the golf course irrigation project for Grandview still in the budget. That is being currently kind of worked on with Department of Water Resources when it comes to the amount of turf we need to remove. as well as budgeting costs as far as the price of oil, which changes into the price of PVC pipe, which will affect ultimately our bottom line. But we hope to be able to reduce that number significantly as we move forward. We got a spreadsheet you are in front of now. When it comes to our FTE count, you will see that there is an increase of about eight employees. 6 of those are basically budgeted. They're not new employees. They're just there for backfilling empty and open positions that no one has right now. They're just there. And then there are 2 new positions that are golf-related. One is a restructuring of the starters on how we deal with operating our golf courses from the administrative side, and also in conjunction with the utilization of the golf lab, and then some IT support when it comes to all of the items that we deal with as far as TEG and making sure that all of the members and their various types of discount cards are all calculated correctly and our revenue comes in. We do have a wonderful individual, Linda Plastius, out there who is doing a tremendous job for us, but we are needing to bring someone under her wing for long-term survival. So moving forward, Mr. President, you wanted to talk about fees specifically.
Yeah.
In front of you is our proposed increase of a 3.5% value going from $480 to $497, which is a 17% or $17 increase. And then the numbers below that are highlighted in tan basically are the divided out ranges when it comes to tenant cards and those types of things on a monthly basis. And then there's a $25 fee increase, I believe, down the bottom that comes, which is a pass-through. Maricopa County has increased their fees they charge to us when it comes to transferring titles.
Okay?
Yes, sir, if you want.
Good. All right. There's a motion on the floor. We have heard the budget overview, very high overview. But we've also been listening to this for 6 months. It seems like a long time anyway. So let's do some discussion. Any questions on this? I specifically, yes, Mr. Young.
I want to talk or ask questions about the Gulf income revenue. It seems like you're projecting about $750,000 increase over this year. I understand that the Gulf fees went up, but is this $750,000 only Gulf fees? Because I noticed that also we are and I don't know how long it's going to last, but you've taken the tee times from 7 or 8 minutes to 10 minutes. And doing that alone is reducing the amount of rounds that you're going to have per day. I'm not but I don't know how much. I guess I'm questioning, are we really confident that you're going to have $750,000 excess?
I don't think anybody knows, but you're 100% correct. It was all on fees. As I think Bill alluded to earlier, the rounds were a 3-year running average. And at this juncture, we did not modify that. If there was some concern about that, we could build a reduction in, but at this juncture, we have not.
I guess my question to you is the $750,000, is that just the increase in fees?
Yes.
Okay. Then I think you're in trouble.
Again, I will just say that, again, using the 3-year average is really the best we can do in assembling a budget. What we're facing right now with the reopening of these golf courses in April and May, obviously it's on the downturn of our busy season. So the 10-minute intervals right now that we're accommodating for the COVID-19, I don't think are really affecting the numbers. From what I've seen thus far in a report from Pat through the end of May, I think we're actually up 1,200 rounds, if not more, for the month of May. So that's a positive sign for us. But again, as we hit June, July, August, September, those are pretty slow months for us. So the 10-minute interval, I think, from a safety perspective, moving forward, I don't think it's going to hurt us too bad financially. What happens, depending on what turns around next November, that's a scary time. But there's no way to predict that at this point.
I guess I'd like to hear from Pat. if you had an average day and you were filled up, and you had an 8-minute tee time, and you went to 10 minutes, how much revenue are you going to lose in a day? Do you have any idea?
So we, by doing this exercise with the COVID-19, we lose 2 tee times an hour by going to 10 minutes.
2 tee times?
2 tee times, 8 players.
That's all. Okay.
An hour at each golf course. And to comment on Bill's financials, we are up 11% in revenue for May, 19% up in rounds, a little over 2,000 rounds.
Well, that's because you were closed for 2 weeks or 2 months.
Sure, there's a pent up demand, absolutely, and everybody's staying hunkered down and playing golf here. But our goal is to get back to that 8 and 7 minute tee time interval sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And that's our goal, but we'll adapt to do whatever we need to do.
The next question I have along that lines is, you guys have put some pretty stiff restrictions on golfers. Are the golfers following them? Because if they aren't, they're going to close these courses and your revenue is really shot.
Yeah, so far it's been really good. The golfers have really stepped up and have done what is required that we've asked of them. Minimal number of people in the pro shop. They're not congregating, but we're not giving them an opportunity to congregate. So it's been good on this last reopening.
Well, but out on the golf course, they were congregating on the tees, and I understand. I didn't witness it personally, but I understand that they were violating everything we did, and I'm asking, is that cleaned up?
Yes.
Thank you.
So 4 players, you're going to have a difference of opinion on what 6 feet is, I'm sure, on the tees and on the greens.
I understand.
But all in all, they're very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Mr. Wallace?
Yes. Does this budgeting for golf and the associated fees and labor, does this include the continuation of the PAs outside of the normal, whatever it is, October to May or November to May to later on? I noticed that they've been visible to kind of deter a lot of the activity after hours on the golf course by members, and it seems to have been pretty effective. Is that going to continue?
So currently, for those that aren't aware of this, we do have our players' assistants spending time on both the open golf courses and the closed ones, and they're staying on property throughout the day, off and on, up until 7:30 at night. And it has curtailed a lot of extracurricular activity out there, and we've got them scheduled through June, and that's a dialogue that Bill and I will have going forward on how deep into the season we want to continue this.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question along that line is, are the PAs finally given a little power, or are you just having them out there going wishy-washy, don't do anything? Because that's been the problem, in my opinion. You don't give them any power to take their card away or do something. I don't know. I just ask it.
Right. So the hierarchy there is that the PA reports to the starter or the golf course manager. I want to make sure that those 2 people are in the loop, because whatever happens out there, they're the ones that are going to be responsible or be part of that conversation. During this time, the PAs, as they do during the season, have an end of shift report, and they document all of the interactions that they have, and then we send it up to the golf course managers to deal with, anywhere from somebody walking on the golf course to breaking golf course rules. So we found that that's the most effective way to do it, and so far it's been good.
Well, I just bring it up because if you don't have an enforcement of a rule, you might as well not have the damn rule. And I want to make sure if we're putting rules on these golfers to do certain things, if they're not doing them and the PA observes it, there's something going on as a penalty for these people, because if it doesn't happen, you can forget the rule. That's my opinion.
Right, and please understand, we have 27 PAs. All of these PAs are individuals that have a golf background, but they're making minimum wage, and they're not being paid enough to make those hard decisions out on the golf course, so that's why we ask them to bring it in to our management team and let us deal with those.
So you are taking their referrals and doing something about it.
Absolutely.
I guess that's my question.
Yes, sir.
I don't care who does it, somebody's got to do it.
Okay, yeah, George?
Pat, just a clarification on this one. I know we've moved our golfers for safety issues, having one per cart. Has that sped up play, and have we picked up any extra tee slots with the 10-minute intervals in between, so it's kind of like a break even?
So we've seen an increase in the pace of play. So on a regulation golf course, for example, it might be 3.5 hours to play. Since we have the 10-minute intervals, those intervals still stay intact, but what we're seeing is that the length of the day for people to play have extended, which is something that we've always tried to encourage, that they're playing later into the day. So yes, the rounds have been very, very good.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay. Anything else on golf? Yeah, Tim?
I do. I just wanted to respond to Mr. Young, although he's left the room, and that is, okay, he's just wandering around. The PAs are out there as a show, but the real the people who really are enforcing rules are the golfers themselves. A lot of these groups are self-policing themselves. Golfers weren't happy when the golf courses were closed, and we've been very vocal on one of the reasons the golf courses were closed was because some of the clubs and some of the groups were hanging around and not doing what they were supposed to be doing. So there's been several letters that have been sent out to the groups and to the clubs that basically said the golf courses are open, but it's on you to be self-policing and make sure the people in your group are doing what they're supposed to do. And we've even gone to the point to telling them that if people in your group aren't doing what they do, they don't need to be included in your group. So it's the golfers themselves that are self-policing and taking care of the issue. I do want to make a couple other comments about golf fees because I think with this COVID thing has really kind of overshadowed everything else. But one of the charters of the golf committee is to review and approve for recommendation to the governing board increases in rates and fees. And we started this work back in November, before COVID ever showed up. These were all reviewed by the golf committee and approved before COVID ever showed its ugly head. Pat does a good job every year of giving the golf committee a comparative analysis of other golf courses around here, the people that would be our competition, and what their fees are and how we fit into it. We want to generate as much revenue as we can, but we don't want to price ourselves out of the local market, okay? So basically what happened this year was resident rates went up $3, and you have to remember that they haven't increased in rates for 3 years. And as you've been heard several times, the minimum wage has gone up every year. I mean, it's gone up like from $9.50 or $10.50 to $12. That's a big increase since half the employees for golf are minimum wage people. So we went up $3 for residents. We went up $5 for non-residents to equal out, treating the residents a little better than the people outside. And golf fees is one part of it, but the golf discount cards is another part of it. And the cards themselves have not been increased in 3 years also. So unlimited card was increased $345, something like that. And the unlimited Twilight card was increased. The other cards, the Coyote card and the Kachina card, were not increased because they just give you a percentage off the rack rate. So when you go in, if you have a Kachina card, when you go in to the starter, they are charging you 50% of the resident rate there at point of sales. So those two cards have gotten an increase at the point of sales. So that's why those have increased and the other cards have not. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to address them.
I only have one comment. I wished I was as strongly optimistic that your people are going to monitor themselves as you are, because I don't believe that. I hope it happens.
You're the eternal optimist, Mr. Young. You really are.
He is.
Okay, any other golf things? And I'd like to spend a minute with, on the dues. I've received, as you know, people have been inputting questions, and Katie's been fielding those and sending them on to me. We are being viewed by about 60 folks out in the community right now, which is nice to hear. But there's a couple of comments that I think that we need to at least hear. One is from a lady named Lois Colasar, who summary is, I ask each of you to consider a more conservative budget for this year, one without expensive new projects, one which truly needed maintenance and so forth, and then also the dues increase of 3.5% at a time when our country is facing severe economic pressure and record unemployment. And the other one was talked about a chart that we usually throw up, and there was trying to compare, and I don't think I have the answers to those questions about whether Sun City collects a APF fee the same way and counts it into their budgets and all that stuff. So, but they're talking about the necessity for dues increases. So we are ready to approve a 3.5% dues increase, and I think consensus-wise at our workshop 2 weeks ago, we all said yes, that this is what we want to do. So I just want the community to know that the board is approving this and moving forward. So can we have a minute conversation about that and talk about it? We'll go, Mr. Canaro, you go first.
I think we've done enough discussion. We've looked at it up and down. We've discussed it here today and all. I think we know where we got to do what we got to do to keep this as the premier community in the area, the retirement community.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Okay. Mr. Young?
Yeah, my comment is that the minimum wage has killed us. We have not raised the minimum wage fees, income as much as the minimum wage has gone up over the past several years. And if we did, we'd be doubling the increase to $30 instead of $17.
Are you making a motion to that
No,
effect?
I'm not,
Okay.
because I think
I'm just
what
checking.
I'm trying to point out is we have been sensitive to this because we didn't raise it $30, we raised it half of that.
Right.
So there is some consideration to it.
All right.
And
Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, just to build upon that a little bit, our general manager has made it very clear multiple times that our biggest expenses in the Sun City West community for operating are people and power. And in fact, this is right square in the zone of that, of people. And this was legislated upon us. That is the minimum wage increases. We can't argue with it. We can't object to it. We can't change it. But I think that the boards and the staff has done a really credible job to minimize the impact of that on the residents and keep our dues increases in lines, because $17 is 2 cheap bottles of wine every year, people.
That's expensive wine for some of
I
us,
don't
Brian.
pay that much for my wine.
I know you wouldn't.
Well, 3
All
for
right,
you.
anybody else want to weigh in on this? Tim?
Yeah, I just want to weigh in. This is, the board will understand this, but the people who haven't been through the process all along need to understand that our capital budget has been cut in half.
Right.
$6 million for a capital budget sounds like a lot, but it was almost $12 million when we first started the process.
We've done a lot of paring down on this. Yeah.
And if I may, I know we get a lot of inquiries relative to the fee increase, and a lot of complaints and a lot of confusion, really. A lot of people think the fee increase is directly related to their entry into a rec center or a swimming pool, and that is just a small fraction of what the fees pay for. And I think whether it's a work study or whether it's some public information, but we really, I think, need to do, from our end, a little bit of a better job explaining what the fees actually go for. Obviously, Brian, you touched on it. You know, wages and utilities are huge, a large, close to 80% of everything that we take care of. You know, but there are repairs and replacements outside of the capital need that tend to go on year-round. Smaller than $50,000, but those things take place. Todd and his crew landscape all of the acreage that we have around here as far as common space, open space, roadways, right-of-ways, and those types of things. Taxes and insurance are a fee that are covered by our annual fee increases, banking fees, legal obligations that we have. When it comes to membership, we process the dues. We deal with thousands and thousands of guests during the busy season. We have transfers of title. We have disclosures we have to deal with Maricopa County. There's administrative costs left and right. We we do a lot of work with special events, and we have a food and beverage operation. And all of those items are covered by a less than $500 annual fee for all the residents here, which is still a remarkable benefit and I think a wonderful asset to why people live here.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on either of these, on the dues issues? Okay. So without further discussion, do you have anything more to add to this, Bill?
There were two more slides that we touched
Okay.
on them, the fee increases there. I know Tim, I think, wanted to talk a little bit about the increases in golf fees.
You
Are
already
you
did.
done? The next scenario there was the increase when it came to a very modest increase in the sports pavilion.
Right.
As far as bowling rates go. And moving on, Mr. Finelli.
Could I, just while you're doing that, could I interrupt now? The golf committee really labored on this golf fees increase and came to the conclusion with the recommendations. These came from your committee, correct?
Yes, they did.
Likewise, from the Sports Pavilion Committee, these increases came from that?
Yes, they did, and that was done
Yeah.
already in January.
Yes, yes. So this is something that's been ongoing and has been community-driven, and we all realize it needs to happen. Okay.
And just quick summary, I'm going to pass this over to Pete. Finish up, just
Okay.
basically going over the overall scenario as to where we sit and where we're going.
Yes, real briefly, the 5-year projection is requested as part of the policies. You see the budget column, and then at the top, I am implementing a 3.5% or 3.6% average for membership dues, golf and other revenues, so are at 3.5% to 3% as well. So on revenues, there's no big, expectation of double-digit or high-end increases built within our what-if program. On the expense side, almost identically 3%. And so I think you all have seen this at other forums. We usually have it out for 10 years, but for the requirements of this, it's 5 years. In the bolded column in the middle, you see all the expectations that have been built in, the excess, the APFs, the capital that you all approved, and I'll be modifying that slightly. But you do see that at the bottom with your FI04 modification, that 40% be your floor. We don't have any issues with attaining that at the current projections.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? We're going to go to a vote now. Would you restate the motion, please, Jerry?
I move that the governing board approve the fiscal year 2020-21 operating and capital budget as amended.
As amended, okay. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Tim Hurley. All right, let's go. We'll start, Mr. Connor
Yes.
is a yes.
Yes?
Ms. Fitzsimon is a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hurley's a yes. Mr. Kuchek is a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney is a yes. Mr. Canaro
Yes.
is a yes. Mr. Young
Let me think about it. Yes?
is a yes. And Mr. Wallace?
Yes, I'd just like to add that I'd like to echo Director Young's caution about some of our financial projections, especially for APF fees for this coming year, especially in light of what we've seen in the last 2 months.
Just to respond to that, I think everyone would agree with you, and that's been a conversation throughout this process, is that should the whole bottom fall out, then we make adjustments, just like as if we'd lost our job in our home and we'd have to figure out how to pay the bills. So I think everyone's aware of that, and certainly it is worth restating, though. Okay. Board member comments. Let's start with Mr. Connor. Any comments today? No, sir. Sue?
Just another thank you to the staff for establishing the budget and the work that has gone into that. Thank you.
Tim?
I would like to echo that for the staff. Budgeting process is hard enough, but with all of the COVID curves thrown at us this year, it's been doubly hard.
I agree. Mr. Cook, Vice President?
Thank you. Once again, will echo the staff has done not only an incredible job, but has looked to keep us on a financial path that is a budget that has a income above expenses, capital projects necessary to move forward. Awesome job, and I really got to give extra kudos to our general manager, Mr. Schwinn, to going through the process of this for the first time and surviving it. And I really do appreciate how much work they have all done on it. Thank you.
All right, Donna?
No comment.
No comments? Mr. Canaro?
I just want to reiterate with everybody, thank you so much, staff, Bill, great job.
All right,
I know
Mr.
what
Young?
it's like to put together a budget.
When we first started this, Tim alluded to it, we were at $13 million in capital improvements, and everybody was kind of shaking in their boots. And that was even before the virus and all that other problems. And the staff really buckled down, and they looked it over, and they really worked hard. And I want to tell you, I've seen a lot of growth in the last year on Pete Finelli, our CFO, who has really stepped up, and of course he's had the guidance of Bill, and I appreciate all of your work. Thank you very much.
Brian?
I can't add anything. Thank you.
I would like to thank Casey Huta, who kind of organized our team back here, our audiovisual team. Martin, thank you for working with that. Thank you for Bill Schwinn for your work with your team and the hard work that goes on. And watching this for the last couple of years, it's impressive to watch. There's been one thing I'd like to say on the Pebblebrook putting green. Mr. J.L. Phillips wrote, "We like to practice at Pebblebrook because the slope makes it more challenging." So there's always one. Yes, there is always one.
Realistic.
But we are listening to it. That's good stuff. All right, our next meeting is June 12th. That's a governing board workshop, and just so you know, I'm not sure that we have much on it for an agenda. We do have several hearings that need to be addressed, and I'm seriously considering having the hearings during that time period instead of doing a workshop. So I'll let you know in the next week or so on how that works, but that would probably be in the social hall. I would rather meet like this if we can meet it. If we can figure out how to get some folks in here, that would be even better. But at this point, this is kind of where we are. So without any further ado, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for your work.